The sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much, but that's not true. They're testing out vowels and consonants and trying different sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on meaning, especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Learn more at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
93.5 and 107.5, The Fan.
WIBC HD2, W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis.
It's Kevin and Query.
I throw, you catch. It's not that hard, okay? All right, get the out of here.
I'm going to talk a lot about drills and fundamentals.
Watch it, watch it, watch it, watch it.
On 93.5
watch it.
And 107.5.
Boom, baby.
The Fan.
It is, Friday's always good. You wake up, you're ready for the weekend, which I am. And even though the Pacers lost last night, there's some optimism to talk about, I guess, for a team that's probably not headed to the playoffs.
That was such a fun game last night.
Yeah, exactly. And then I get up and I walk outside. I'm kind of ready to go. It looks like it's going to be a good-looking sunrise, and boom. I'm like, what happened?
The temperature?
It's like 23 degrees outside.
Well, I'm dressed like it's springtime. Yesterday was like high 50s, low 60s. I was like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, you got on your WrestleMania shirt and everything.
Oh,
right?
I'm ready.
Is there a WrestleMania event or something?
No, not for a few weeks.
You know that stuff's fake, right?
What? What are you saying to me?
You know, it's scripted.
Yes, I do. Stuff. Like most TV shows and movies, yeah. But it's fun. It's a good time.
So you still, like, as a wrestling fan, you still have fans that, like, you have favorites, and you hope that that's who they write in as the winner?
Yeah, I mean, you have favorite ones that whether it's their personalities or just, whatever. But, yeah, you're like, oh, yeah, that's a cool guy. That girl's cool. I would like to see her do well. Sometimes they're good guys. Sometimes they're bad guys. But, yeah, everybody's got their favorites.
Do they oscillate from good to bad?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
One day they'd be like, you guys rule. And the next, you never had my back. Go to hell. There you go, man.
Okay. Were you up late last night watching your St. Louis Battlehawks hold off the Seattle Sea Dragons?
I actually turned it on for a little bit.
Did you? Okay, so kidding aside, and by the way, good morning to you. It is a Friday. That is Mark Dykton. My name is Jay Corey. Sam Fritz here as well. Kevin Bowen back on Monday. But we're going to get you set for the weekend with plenty to talk about this morning. I'm sure the Pacers will be a big part of the conversation. Naturally, the Colts as well. And, of course, Indiana-Purdue weekend, which is always good. But I'm curious, Mark, not to spend too much time on the XFL because I know what it is, but it is intriguing, as I said, because there are definitely leagues. I think there is somewhat of a place for, like, the spring football.
Mm-hmm.
And the USFL, I enjoyed the USFL. I actually did. I didn't, like, sit and watch every game. But it was just kind of fun to have something on, so sports in the background during that time of year. And, I watched the championship game was actually really exciting for the USFL, and they had a decent crowd for it last year. And they have TV backing between NBC and I think maybe Fox is part of it. But the XFL does as well.
Uh-huh.
So the XFL, which, Vince McMahon apparently lost $200 million on the first go-round. He didn't lose that much up front. That was the potential earning that they forfeited when they folded the league. Now you have it with Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is kind of the principal behind all of it. You said you watched a little of it the other night. There are a couple of rules. You can go for a 3-point conversion, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But how much did you watch last night? What did you think?
Last night I watched after the Pacers game. I probably gave it 5 minutes because at that point I was doing some prep for the show, which I know is rare for this, but I did some prep for the show.
Impressive.
I know. I wrote some things down. I saved the document. I did that stuff. Got the girls to bed. I watched probably 5 minutes of it. I watched more of it over this past weekend.
What level of football would you say it is?
How do you mean?
Well, I mean, like the USFL.
Like of entertainment value?
No, the skill set. Like the USFL to me was
it's clearly a downgrade from the NFL.
Yeah,
There's
the
no question about
USFL to
it.
me was kind of like watching probably like Conference USA with some elite Big Ten players here and there.
Yeah.
Is that about what it was?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. I would say it's kind of like the in-between between college and NFL, where it's the guys that aren't good enough to get to the NFL,
but they would be
but they're
stars
done
in
with college, and there's some recognition, name recognition there.
You said you watched the Pacer game last night. Look, that was one that if the Pacers were still in and there was the expectation that they were in a playoff push, that was a total gut punch. But that's not where they are. And so if we revert back to the beginning of the year, it was encouraging because they looked good, and yet they still are moving themselves into like top 5 possibility in terms of a draft pick, which I know that they don't want and fans don't want to necessarily think of it that way, but that's kind of the reality right now of probably what you're shifting back towards is draft watching, if you will. But what was your overall thought?
I mean, I know they're kind of struggling right now. I still wanted them to win that game because I thought it was just going to be like just the way they came out. Miles Turner was hitting everything from 3 last night. It was great to see. Fans were going nuts, and they just kept battling against the Celtics. The Celtics take like a double-digit lead, and you're like, okay, they're turning it on now. And then the Pacers would just come back and just answer every call. And that last stretch, and even going to overtime, was thrilling. And it was just one of those ones where it's like, I know they're probably not going to win this game, but this would be a fun one for them to get. Just right out of the All-Star break, get a big win over the top team in the NBA, and unfortunately they came just a little bit short. But it was a thrilling game. I liked it a lot. I mean, it was probably my favorite game I've watched all season.
Overtime game. Jason Tatum did not shoot the ball overly well from three-point range, but he obviously, still ends up with 31, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then you have on the other side of it, Turner, as you talked about, 8 of 10 from three-point range, ends up with 40. I thought Halliburton, and you're going to have nights like this. I mean, he still had 14 assists, 22 and 14, right? And he was 7 of 14 from the floor. But late in the game, I thought Halliburton forced things a little bit. And I don't necessarily mean even the shot that would have won the game and he missed it, then went to overtime, where, he does do a remarkable job of the step back of getting himself open. But the one thing with Halliburton, it's not an issue now, but when that step eventually goes away later in his career, it may be. It does take him a while to release his shot versus other players. So he needs a little bit more time to be open.
I think that also
get a shot off.
From what I thought too is,
and that's nitpicking. Admittedly.
He was maybe thinking a little too much about the shot because he knew how big some of those shots were going to be down the stretch, and it almost like he paused for a second because he was thinking about it or just wanted one more look at it before he put it up. And sometimes you don't have to think; you just got to do it. So I think that's also what happened was that he was thinking a little too much on those shots and they didn't go in. They will eventually drop for him, but when those big pressure shots come, you want the ball in his hand, as I would assume down the stretch.
This is a good point that was just texted to me. Halliburton might have lost the game for them by trying to win it at the end of regulation by beating Marcus Smart.
Yeah.
Smart at that point was in his head. That's probably fair, right?
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about, where they were about to go to overtime. He had a chance to get the game winner, and he just kind of paused, and then he just kind of threw one up, and you're like, that didn't have much of a chance. I feel like we haven't
talked enough about the fact that it's a pretty big weekend for college basketball, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not just with IU and Purdue, but there's some big games on the slate this weekend, especially with the regular season winding down. Selection Sunday coming up soon. So, yeah, some big games coming up.
IU Purdue obviously headlining all of that. That game at 7:30 tomorrow from Mackey up in West Lafayette. Kudos and congratulations, by the way. And my understanding is at the last minute, Robert Morris on the way here decided they picked up the rest of the guys. It wasn't just Bob himself. And IUPUI last night, 81-75 over Robert Morris. So kudos to them. They snap a 4-game losing streak.
I mean, I don't think it wouldn't have been as
24
impressive
boards.
if it was 5-on-1. If it was it wouldn't have been as impressive if it was 5-on-1.
I know, but 5-on-5, you got to hand it to them.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, good stuff. What's your weekend look like?
So last weekend we did a whole bunch of stuff. Went to Louisville for this dinosaur cave thing, and then we went to.
You do a lot of day trips, don't you?
I know, and then we did Muncie on Saturday. We went to the Children's Museum there, which was fun, and then we did we went to Uranus, Fudge Factory.
Okay.
What? I that is what it's called.
That's like near Lapel, right?
Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed that. And then Sunday we kind of took it easy and did that stuff. This weekend we are going up to my parents' house. I haven't seen them for a little bit, so we're going to go see them let them see the granddaughters and whatnot, and then it's kind of. I think we're going to go to Chicago and maybe go to a couple museums too. It's been a while since we did the museum tour in Chicago, so I think we're going to do a couple of those this weekend.
How much is the Science and Industry Museum?
These days, I don't know. I'll have to look it up, but I'm not sure. But that is my favorite museum in Chicago.
Well, I mean, as a kid, we went there. It was amazing, right?
Yeah.
Went all the time. How are your parents doing? For those that listen to the program regularly, it was just about a year ago, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's right after Mother's Day weekend, so we're coming up on the 1 year.
We can kind of, I guess, joke about it now, but do you remember at the time we were kind of laughing about it? You got that text.
Oh, my God. Yeah, my parents, of course, tried not to make a big deal out of things. They're like, oh, my dad had a business trip in Oregon, and my mom went with him because she's like, yeah, I've never been there. I'll go with you. I'll be out there for the week. So they went out a couple days early, and they were going to go do some sightseeing and all that stuff. And then we got a text like the night before a show, and it was like, hey, just want to let you know we were in a little bit of a fender bender, no big deal, like this and that, we're fine, but just want to let you guys know. We're like, oh, okay, like, good, you're all right. And they send us the picture, and I'm like, holy hell, like that car was totaled. And like, yeah, it was like apparently head on. Your mom broke her like ankle and wrist and a couple broken ribs and all that stuff. Like, wait,
wasn't there?
That's not a fender bender.
Wasn't there an airlift involved?
For the lady who caused the accident, yeah.
That's what I mean.
But then it started raining so bad that they couldn't fly my mom out, so she had to get driven from like south of Eugene, Oregon, to Portland, which is about a 3-hour drive. So a 3-hour ambulance ride to Portland, and then my dad got released that night later, and he was in a hotel, but he was all gimpy and everything too. He's still having some pain, but they are doing much better. But yeah, the joke was that they called it a fender bender, and then later after that show I ended up flying out to Oregon to go see him because I'm like, well, there's no way my dad's going to get to Portland in the condition he's in. And good thing I went, and then he and my brother and I, my youngest brother and I, split time and went out there and stuff.
Well, I remember you went out to see him, and then you came back with nothing but souvenirs, and I'm like, what did you just?
Mike, we're going to see. We had to go get to my mom, and my dad's like, well, I don't want you coming out here for no reason. You should go see something. I'm like, Dad, this is not why I'm here. I'm not going sightseeing to see this.
But you know what you should have
stopped
seen?
At the University of Oregon and got lunch, and he's like, buy yourself a shirt. I'm like, okay, Dad.
I get it. I mean, I'm being flippant, but
they're doing much better now.
If you go to Oregon, Oregon's a beautiful state. And I have not done this. I'm going to Portland, obviously, for IndyCar this year, and I really want to do this. I want to take an extra day and go to Astoria.
Uh-huh.
The Goonies house is for sale.
Ooh.
Now, you've seen the Goonies, right?
I have seen it, yes. I'm not going to lie. I've never seen it beginning to end. I've seen parts. I know. I'll leave now.
Okay. No, I get it. I mean, part of that's probably just, I mean, it came out probably the year you were born, but... I mean, if you really want to see Corey Feldman at his peak, you watch The Goonies and Sean Astin, but a good movie. But anyway, that's in Astoria, and I've always wanted to see the house where it was. But
the funny thing was, we actually just talked about my parents' accident situation last night on our family chat, because I was saying, oh, Aaron Rodgers emerged from his darkness retreat. And where was it? Like just a couple hours east of Roseburg, which is where the accident occurred.
Was it really?
Yeah. So I was looking into it. I'm like, oh, this is where he was in this cave or whatever. Like, what are the odds of that?
Alan Karpick, by the way, going to join us just over 30 minutes from now. We'll talk a little Purdue basketball with them as the Boilers get set to host Indiana. 8 o'clock, Rakestraw going to join us. Big weekend in girls high school basketball, notably, and a big one for him on a personal side. We'll get to that. 9 o'clock, Don Fischer, legendary voice of the Indiana Hoosiers, will join us again to talk IU and Purdue. Back to that, Mark, the Rodgers thing. Aaron Rodgers is clearly, I mean, if you had to rank quarterbacks all time, he is in the top 20. He's probably a top 15 all-time quarterback. Of the current quarterbacks, he's had, the totality of his career is in the upper crust, no question about that. But there's something about Rodgers that at some point, your on-field success can become secondary to your on-field excess or off-field excess. And I feel like he's there. And I don't
I think he's been there for a couple seasons.
Yeah, and I don't know that he knows he's there.
No, he doesn't.
If you've ever been to Green Bay, Wisconsin, or Milwaukee, but certainly Green Bay, which is another 2 hours north of Milwaukee, literally, there's the top businessmen in Green Bay all have a meeting downtown, and you walk downtown and they're all wearing three-piece suits and a Packers parka. You go into the grocery store and the guy coming out of the dairy cooler that was stocking yogurt is wearing a Packers hat. You drive through the neighborhoods just outside of Green Bay, and every single car has a Packer license plate border, and 90% of the cars are green or yellow. That town, and it's a different place because unlike any other city in the NFL, Green Bay is the size of Muncie.
Yeah.
So if you play for the Packers, you're a part of the community. People run into you at the grocery store. They high-five you in the movie theater. During training camp, the little kids ride your bike from the facility to the stadium, et cetera, et cetera. And Rodgers, I think, when there was a lot of drama with Brett Favre, and people were kind of over the drama of Brett Favre to the point where I think it made Packers fans eager to pass the torch to Aaron Rodgers. Let's just let Aaron Rodgers, let's just see what he can do. And Rodgers has had a career and it's not easy to do, and he deserves a ton of credit in this regard. To follow a legend is really difficult. And it's a really hard thing to do. And to do so and not make people forget the legend, but to soften that blow is a ton of pressure. And Aaron Rodgers, to his credit, did exactly that. And owned that town. But then there's always drama around him. And at first when he came into the league, it was, he doesn't talk to his brother. He doesn't talk to his family. Family dynamics are always interesting, and those are personal, I understand. So you don't get overly involved in scrutinizing that kind of a thing until it starts to become a pattern elsewhere. Then, he's been engaged on a handful of occasions and never married. I'm not going to sit here and throw stones at that. But it is it is odd how all of these breakups would happen from one to the next to the next. Again, not in a vacuum, that's not unusual. When you start adding it all up, it's like, man, what is going on? And then you look at with his team and this every single year narrative of, well, I'm going to take time off and figure out what I want to do. You're under contract.
Yeah.
That's just what I don't get it because he's under a contract. Why did he sign a multi-year contract if he's going to do this after every year? And why do people just assume that he's the one driving the bus?
Because I think, I can tell you why he does it. It's because he likes the attention. And he'll go on Pat McAfee's show and say, I don't know why everyone's obsessed with me. Why is Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport reporting on me? They don't know anything about me. It's like, dude, you won't keep yourself out of the news cycle. I'm going on this darkness retreat. I did ayahuasca. This is it's all this stuff where he claims he doesn't want the attention, but he starves for the attention. And that's the problem, is that he's going down the exact same path that Brett Favre did. So he might have resented Brett Favre for kind of giving him, the business back when he first got in the league and taken forever to get out of the Packers and hand him the reins. But he's doing the exact same thing to Jordan Love. He's under contract, yet he's complaining maybe I'll go somewhere else. Oh, I was at the Pro-Am and I was talking with fans to see which team I should go play for next year. Dude, what are you doing? You're under contract. It's exhausting. I know I'm a Bears fan and I've got that bias in me. I haven't liked Aaron Rodgers since the beginning. Brett Favre I at least respected. Aaron Rodgers, I just think he's a complete egomaniac. And I just think if I'm a Packers fan, I'm just like, can you just go now? Are we done with this?
It's hard to argue that. It is. At some point, it becomes detrimental to your franchise. And here's the thing. Do we know yet? Well, I shouldn't say yet. So I'm asking this somewhat rhetorically. Do we know that he's the same player that he was 5 years ago? How old is Aaron Rodgers?
He's 39.
He's starting to show it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Devontae Adams left, and then, yes, you could say that he had a bunch of younger wide receivers this last season, so he's getting used to that. But he also didn't do any off-season work with them. He didn't get together with them and do some sessions on the side and try to get some kind of rapport going with them. So it's kind of like you made your bed in that respect because you're like, oh, I didn't work with, so-and-so. I want to keep bringing Randall Cobb, back on 1-year contracts and this and that. So, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm exhausted by it. Like, I can't even imagine what Packers fans are going through because it's like, what, the third, fourth season in a row now where he's like, will I or won't I play?
That's what I mean. I mean, at some point you have to say, look, man, we're done dealing with it, right?
And I think the Packers might be getting to that point.
If you're the Packers, every single year that's going to be your offseason. Eventually, you're like, yeah, we're not going through it again. And the players are wondering, and your free agency, I mean, all of it's impacted. All of it. It's just tired, man.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
But I will say that I was intrigued by that dark retreat, though. It's just a cave, right?
Yeah, it was like a cave in, the middle of the Oregon wilderness or whatever. And I saw some pictures online. It looked pretty, but I'm not spending 4 days in complete darkness with my own thoughts.
Now, so what do? You just sit and can you imagine? Here's the thing. There is a business, Mark. We're in the wrong business, right?
I don't know.
Think about this. It's like the pet rock all over again. There's a business out there. There are 2 guys in Oregon that said to themselves, you know what we should do? Let's just buy like a yard and dig a hole and put like a mattress and a fan down there and then tell people that it's a retreat where you can go and just sit in the hole and collect your thoughts, and we'll pump in like some eucalyptus scent and we'll charge people $10,000 for 3 days and tell them that it cleanses their mind. And then we'll just hire somebody that is a guru to talk about it, and we'll have Paris Hilton endorse them. Sit back and cash cow, count it, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not too bad.
Throw a couple TikToks out and you're good to go, right?
Yeah. Yeah, not bad. And then Aaron, yeah. But would you mess with people too? Like if you're like, this guy's a jerk. What if I just he's supposed to be there for 4 days? What if I do like a week? He won't know. How would he know?
Yeah.
He's got no concept of time.
Yeah, but you got to recycle that baby because you got another person that's waiting there on day 5.
Hey, Aaron, get out of here.
That's right. It's like Groundhog Day, right? Alan Karpick going to join us at 7:45. Coming back, we'll get you caught up on what all took place last night in the world of sports. Plenty to talk about. A lot of focus on IU and Purdue round 2 in Mackey. That game tomorrow night. It's a Friday morning. Good morning to you. Kevin and Query, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Matt Painter, the head coach of the Boilermakers. Is there a vital piece that you look for just outside of athleticism, talent, and the basketball package there?
Yeah, winning is what I look for. You get in high school and you're just more talented than people, but do you have winning ways about you? Are you a competitor? When things don't go your way, how do you and the people around you, react?
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 to 6
on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Are you hiring? Then check out Indeed. Schedule virtual interviews and talk to candidates right from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Hey, JMV, for your Central Indiana Joe Childers Run CarX locations, maintain winter road readiness, oil changes, tires, and more. For the location nearest you, CarX.com today.
You had a solid retirement dream. Sell your home in a few years, bank the equity, downsize, and travel. But inflation and recession has you wondering if all your hard-earned equity will still be there. What if you could recession-proof your equity right now? You can with TrueHold. TrueHold will buy your home for its best current value before a recession can erode it. You get to bank all the cash now and live in your home for as long as you want. And TrueHold covers all property taxes, insurance, repairs, and maintenance. And since TrueHold pays your home's current value in cash now, it's yours to do whatever you'd like. Don't wait for inflation, recession, and interest rates to erode your home's value. Visit TrueHold.com and discover how much TrueHold will buy your home for today, based on its best current value, not what's coming. So call 1-855-300-9993 or visit TrueHold.com. The smarter, faster way to cash out on your home's value without having to move. That's TrueHold.com.
You're going to feel a puff of air.
Jung's Optometry has set their sights on staffing up.
Try the next line. Hey, Kim, can you tell our 2 o'clock we're running 15 behind? Sorry, we're a bit backed up today.
He needs an optometric technician to keep an eye on it all.
Where are the dilation drops?
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone, America's #1 brakes destination. We have the pads, rotors, drums, shoes, and brake fluids to improve your stopping power. Right now, save 15% when you get any 2 Duralast rotors with a set of Duralast brake pads. Missing a tool? Ask about our free Loan-A-Tool program and borrow the tools you need to get the job done.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the MPD Group 2021. Deposit required for Loan-A-Tool.
Are your ankylosing spondylitis or AS symptoms still not under control?
Stairs? No way.
Is your treatment still not working?
Mornings? Moving? No.
Tired of saying no? Talk to your rheumatologist about a different treatment option. Visit confrontas.com. And next time, you may just say,
Why, yes, I will go for that run.
Visit confrontas.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Good morning, sports fans from Indianapolis, Indiana.
This is where heroes become legends, and legends become legendary. This is a special blend of speed, tradition,
You just don't know what Indy means.
and magic. This is the Indy 500, but you've never seen this 500. This is May.
Get your tickets now at IMS.com.
JMV here for my guys John and Chris Love at Love Heating and Air Conditioning. The groundhog said 6 more weeks of winter, and you need to make sure your furnace is safe, efficient, and working properly before you have a breakdown on a sub-zero day. Get the recommended service now from Love Heating and Air Conditioning, and the Love family will waive the $95 trip and diagnostic fee. These are the guys I trust in my home. I love the guys at Love. You will too. That's love-hvac.com or 317-754-0754. Tell them JMV sent you.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Ball State Basketball. Get your tickets at ballstatesports.com on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Last night at the Fieldhouse. Pacers coming back from the All-Star break. Tyrese Halliburton, of course, spent his time in Salt Lake City. I thought he was a little forceful towards the end of the game, not to take away from what was a fine performance for him with 22 and 14 assists. But the big story of the night, even though the Pacers lost 142-138 in overtime to the Celtics, was that of Miles Turner. 40 points, 10 rebounds, 8 of 10 from the three-point line. Big night for Miles Turner, and part of it was exactly what Kevin Pritchard at the beginning of the year said he wanted to see more of out of his big man. Consistent shooting, Miles Turner on his shooting touch.
Man, I just think just being aggressive. I think the threes were presenting itself the most tonight, and I was just making the most of my opportunities. And my guys are getting me the balls in the right spot. And fortunately for me, it was a great shooting night.
Pacers now on the road for 4 in a row, starting tomorrow night in Orlando, then at Dallas, at San Antonio, and at Chicago. Mark, if you could make a trip to one of those 4 cities to be able to spend 2 days, which would you pick?
Give me San Antonio.
Yeah, it's not bad. Not a bad call.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
Done the
It's nice.
Riverwalk?
Uh-huh. Like the Riverwalk very much.
After you do the Riverwalk for like a couple hours, though, you're kind of like, wait a minute, I think we just walked past that place again.
Yeah, I had that. We went at night, and I was like, what? I think I've seen that Mexican restaurant before. I think we've done that a few times.
Yeah, it does kind of move around. Other winners, by the way, in the association last night. Nuggets over the Cavs, 115-109. Orlando over Detroit, 108-106. You kind of start to look towards teams like that to see where Indiana might fall in terms of the draft lottery odds. Philly, Toronto, Dallas, Utah, the Lakers, and the Kings, all winners last night. By the way, Domas Sabonis, 18 points, 18 rebounds, 10 assists, triple-double last night for Sacto.
College hoops, the IUPUI Jaguars snapped their 4-game losing streak, topping Robert Morris 5-on-5 in that game, 81-75. Tennessee Tech over Southern Indiana, 82-79, and then Milwaukee topped Purdue Fort Wayne 95-94. Of course, IU Purdue tomorrow at West Lafayette.
Also in college basketball, only because I mentioned it yesterday, and I'll do it again because a lot of people were like, hey, you know what? I appreciate it. Because let's not forget, there are those that live in the area that went to schools other than just IU, Purdue, Butler, etc. Marion and Grace in the Crossroads League semifinals. That game taking place at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Then at 3 o'clock, it is Taylor and Huntington in that league.
Around the NFL, Bubba Ventrone officially has left the Colts and taken the special teams coordinator job.
That sound you heard was him on 56th Street. Can we hear that sound again? That's him
speeding out of there.
Yep.
Oh. So he's gone. The Colts will have to look for a new special teams coordinator. They also still need to get an offensive line coach with Chris Strausser heading to Houston. The XFL, the Battlehawks won on Thursday night, beating the Sea Dragons 20-18.
We're not grasping at all, right?
I know.
You watched it, though, right?
I watched a little bit. The Sea Dragons jerseys weren't bad. I thought they were going to be bright green. They were like an orange.
Nah, that's not it, dude.
But yeah, I thought you made it seem like they were going to be green.
I'll be Randy Jackson here.
They looked like jack-o'-lanterns.
That's not it, dog. No. Have you seen their home ones?
No. Weren't they at home? They were at home yesterday. Wasn't that the home jerseys?
Were they at home? I didn't see the game. They have picked orange and puke green as their colors. It's too much, man.
I'm looking up their uniforms.
Just go standard. Like, teams need to realize, just go standard navy, regular, like a forest green.
You have to
red,
separate
silver.
yourself from the group.
There's
though.
like 6 colors that really, truly work in color schemes in sports.
I thought they kind of looked like the Broncos.
I mean,
jerseys.
didn't we all learn from the early to mid 90s purple fuchsia craze? I mean, the Detroit Pistons, when they went with that like fuchsia green, and then the Raptors went with the purple and silver. Didn't we all? Everybody figured out after a while, like, this sucks, right?
You're currently listening to my favorite jerseys in sports.
Well, you were how old at the time?
5.
That's why. I mean, seriously.
The Sea Dragon home jerseys.
For me, I mean, my bias is towards, the Houston Oilers. I loved the old Seahawks logos, the silver and blue, just like clean.
Think of the Broncos home jerseys. That's what the Sea Dragons home jerseys look like. They're like an orange. They're not bad. Okay. They're not the best, but they're not the worst. And by the way,
Sam, I didn't mean that as a slight. I mean, I do think that when it comes to sports, there is a nostalgia to it, right? So, like, whatever was big for most people, like, in their element, like, when they first get introduced to sports, that's what you kind of always long on to because, You know what I mean? Like, when I was, from a baseball standpoint, when I was 5, that's when the Phillies were wearing the baby blues and the maroon. And I've always thought that was a cool look, but I realized like red and white are really their colors. But I'm nostalgic towards that maroon and baby blue because that's what I saw with Steve Carlton and Pete Rose and Mike Schmidt.
I feel like every Phillies fan has the powder blues
because they've never totally gone away from them, right? I mean,
right.
They still bring them back from time to time. That's the one thing from the Colts standpoint that one of the weird aspects of the Colts franchise, and there is a very cool aspect to it, and then there's a frustrating aspect to it, is they don't really have any identity of the Indianapolis Colts. The only thing from a logo and uniform standpoint that separates the Indianapolis from Baltimore Colts is in the early years when they wore the gray pants with the horseshoe on the hip and the number in the middle of it, but they were terrible. I mean, they were so bad that the franchise is like, yeah, we're not doing that again.
Yeah, it is funny how when they do throwbacks or something, they're really kind of grasping at straws as to what exactly they can throw out there or whatever alternate jerseys they have. They don't really have the selection other teams have.
Turning back to baseball, do you guys remember the MLB turn of the century jerseys, the jerseys of the future that they wore in like 99, 2000? It was
I'm not going to lie, I don't really.
Oh, you got to look them up. Everybody ragged on them for the time, and it was these jerseys that essentially, like, the entire jersey was a piece of art. Like, the Pirates put their entire logo over the chest, and then they had a battleship on the back. Everybody nagged on them for the time, but I think they're some of the best jerseys that have ever been made.
Did they ever bring them back?
I think last season, a couple of teams wore them as throwbacks, like the Padres. The Tampa Bay Rays one is probably the best one out there.
The Rays, man. They've actually, the current Rays are okay, but they've gone through some... Here's what I have always said, and Alan Karpick's going to join us in 10 minutes, by the way, and we're actually going to talk legitimate current-day sports. But I've said this before, and I will repeat it. The more your franchise changes its color scheme and logo, the less successful you clearly are. In baseball, who's the most successful franchise in baseball?
I mean, Yankees.
Of course. How many times they changed their uniforms in the last 75 years?
0.
Right.
The Rays have been really good, though.
They have. The Diamondbacks, let me rephrase that. When you don't have a lot of, like, legacy and heritage and fan base, you're like the Padres, You ever meet anybody that's like, I'm a diehard Padres fan? The Padres, the Diamondbacks, they're constantly changing. They're constantly coming out with something new. You know who doesn't do that? The teams that have long-standing history and loyalty of fan base and tradition underneath them. The Dodgers. The Dodgers have the same uniforms they've had forever. The Cubs have had the same uniform forever. The Reds started screwing around and changing stuff up, and they've sucked ever since. It's karma. It's uniform karma. Alan Karpick joining us in 10 minutes. Indiana, Purdue tomorrow night. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Soccer Saturday featuring Indy 11. If this is your football, this is your show. Saturday at 9 on The Fan.
Hi, Sarah. I'm sorry I'm late. The traffic is crazy.
Yeah, it is. And it doesn't help that gas prices have skyrocketed. I can't believe how much it costs for gas now.
Everyone's talking about how much gas is, but I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app, and I get cash back for every gallon of gas I buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid real cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yeah, real cash every time I buy gas.
What? That sounds like it could really add up.
I've made around $200 already.
Wow, that's serious extra money. I'm downloading the free Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code TANK10 for an extra 25 cents per gallon cash back in your first fill-up. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, to PayPal, or an e-gift card. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code TANK10 for a 25 cents per gallon bonus in your first tank. That's code TANK10 for 25 cents per gallon cash back in your first fill-up. Cashback's not available in gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Hi. Who's this?
Buzz. He appears whenever you eat Honey Nut Cheerios.
Like a genie?
Sure.
Ooh, does he grant wishes? I wish I lived in a giant boot. No, I wish I could swim with a humpback whale. No.
I can grant you a delicious bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios, which can help lower cholesterol as part of a heart-healthy diet.
Ooh, with heart shapes, too.
Happy heart-shaped Cheerios are back for a limited time. Pick up a box of Honey Nut Cheerios at your local store for an easy, delicious, and heart-healthy start to your day.
When you're an innovative business, every blinking cursor, every blank page is an opportunity. What will you do with it? Will you make something better or create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with tools and expertise to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us. For advice on smart PCs powered by Intel V Pro that's built for business, call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Are you working way too hard for way too little? There's never been a better time to consider a career in IT. You could enjoy a recession-resistant career in a rewarding field with plenty of growth opportunities and often flexible work environments. Go to mycomputercareer.edu and take the free career evaluation. You could start your new career in months, not years. Take classes online or on campus, and financial aid is available to qualified students, including the GI Bill. Now is the time. mycomputercareer.edu.
JMV here with an exclusive scoop on how you can attend the NFL Combine for free. Get inside Lucas Oil Stadium to see future NFL stars up close. At the Combine experience, you can pass, punt, and run. To attend for free, March 2nd through the 5th, just go to visitindy.com/combine to sign up for free tickets and parking. The NFL Combine up close with the best college football has to offer, March the 2nd through the 5th. Get your free tickets at visitindy.com/combine. See you there.
Hey, it's Dan Dockich here. You know, for years on my radio show, I asked people to help me out. I needed a treatment, aches and pains. I couldn't lose weight. Well, guess what? I found a solution. I did. Affinity Whole Health. All you've got to do is go to feelgreatindy.com and look into it for yourself. The testosterone program that I am on has been a godsend. I've missed no workouts in 6 months. No more aches and pains. And I have lost weight. FeelGreatIndy.com is the place to go. Get started just like I did.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
It's interesting when you look at tomorrow night's Indiana-Purdue game in West Lafayette. You could make a compelling case as to, somebody sent me a thing and said this game is not as interesting as it was 10 days ago. I don't know if I agree with that. Because both teams, I think, and we'll talk to Alan Karpick about this in just a couple of minutes, but, Mark, it feels to me like both teams coming into it, I mean, look, they both lost 2 of 3. Purdue, there is a difference between being on that one line and that two line. And the good news for Purdue, I guess, is that there's no clear definitive, like, there's not a 2 seed that's really surging where you're like, whoa, you better be careful. I mean, they've managed to kind of stick around that 1 seed line. But for Indiana, and I did see somebody say, like, look, I don't want to fall into that 5 range because we always see a 5-12 upset. The challenge with that 12 seed, if you're a 5 seed, is you usually, a 12 seed is one of 2 teams. It's either a mid-major that has compiled a ton of wins but hasn't played the level of schedule strength where they're getting held back a little bit as a result of that, and so you get like 29-4 Murray State or something like that as a 12 seed, and that's dangerous. Or you get a team out of a big conference that has had some nice wins but some bad losses as well, like this is not a case this year because they're pretty good, but like a Texas A&M or, some SEC school that's 17-13 and they're a 12 seed. So they're competent, right? It's just a dangerous area to get into. And Indiana, I think, is probably flirting right now. They were on the 4 line and now maybe falling back a little bit to the 5. They want to get this win would really help Indiana, I think, secure themselves of not going certainly lower than a 5 seed. But I think what they want to do is try to lock in the top 4 seed. And that's still in play for them, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I disagree that people are saying that this game isn't as big. So, like you said, both teams have struggled a little bit. Their backs are against the wall as we're getting to the end of the regular season. So, I know you've said for a few weeks now that you think Purdue's going to win pretty
15
handedly.
points.
Yeah, you still sticking with that? Has anything changed in the last couple games that have made you change that prediction?
No, I think for Indiana, the real key is, Jalen Hood-Schifino and how he plays. He's obviously an elite level player, but he's been an elite level player at times at home. He's been an inconsistent one on the road. And, for me, he is the key from an Indiana standpoint, and they've got to start getting him an opportunity. They've got to start getting him uncorked away from Assembly Hall. And, this is a big test for it. I mean, there's a lot to see where each team, where they are based on the things that hurt them losing coming into this game. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And their losses they've had coming into this game.
Makes perfect sense. And we'll get a little more IU talk in the 9 o'clock hour, and the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, joins us. Right now we're going to talk a little Purdue, and we're going to turn to Alan Karpick, who's a member of the On3 Network and the present publisher of goldandblack.com. He joins us now on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Good morning, Alan. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me on. And, there's a lot of anticipation for the team tomorrow night in Mackey Arena.
So is it, we've been talking about this most of the week. Purdue obviously has not had a game in about a week leading into this IU game. Is that a good or bad thing that they've had a week off between games?
I think for Purdue it's a good thing. 2 reasons. One, they did play well for the most part against Ohio State. Kind of got themselves, I understand where Ohio State is in the standings, but got them at least feeling a little bit better about themselves after the Maryland loss. But also, I think every team right now is, the way the Big Ten schedule is condensed with 20 conference games and the way that they go at each other, it's just good. And it's actually good even after Saturday night that Purdue doesn't play again for 5 more days before they go to Wisconsin on Thursday night. So, I think Purdue looks at this as a net positive in terms of, they've lost 3 of their last 5 games, and yes, they righted the ship a little bit against Ohio State, but with Indiana coming in, I think they want to be as fresh as possible.
Alan, I'm going to play with you a quick version of fact or fiction, okay?
Sounds good, Jeff.
I'm going to make a statement, and you tell me if it's fact or fiction. And my statement is this. While they are heated rivals of one another, Indiana and Purdue share one thing in common, and that is that they have elite-level play from elite players under the basket, and Zach Edey and Trace Jackson-Davis, obviously. However, that's not what makes them go. What makes them go and puts them to the next level is trying to find consistency in backcourt play, and that's the biggest question mark for both teams. Fact or fiction?
I would say, and I can't speak of, obviously a lot of Indiana basketball this year. Certainly, Jalen Hood-Schifino has been great. Yeah, I would say that's fact, and I would say that that is, and it's not a knock on Lawyer and Smith by any stretch. It just means that if you look at the Big Ten, look at Northwestern, even though they lost a big lead last night and ended up paving the way for Purdue to get a share of the Big Ten championship if it wins on Saturday night. And my point is they've got really good guard play. Purdue has good guard play. Is it going to be physical enough? Is it going to be consistent enough when the lights come on in the Big Ten tournament, the NCAA tournament, is a legitimate question. So I think that's fact.
Now, the question for me, Alan, would be this, and that is with Lawyer and Smith, and we, we talked about it obviously over the course of the beginning of the year. Hey, freshman guards are freshman guards. Maybe that doesn't mean as much in today's college basketball as it did 25 years ago because it's more common to get freshmen that are playing big minutes. But to me, it's probably less about, if you look at like inconsistency, let's say from Lawyer from a scoring standpoint, maybe it's less about Lawyer and more about teams figuring out just how to guard them differently and saying, you know what, this Edey guy, there's not much we can do here. Let's start to cut things off in other areas. Are they being guarded differently in the backcourt than they were 6 weeks ago?
Well, I think that's true. I think that goes without, not necessarily goes without saying, but it's the reality of the Big Ten. It's the familiarity breeds contempt. All these coaches know exactly what to do, and there were certainly signs of ways to deal with Zach Edey and the physical nature of what opposing guards have done against Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer has been a storyline. And that's not that I'm saying that that's the physical nature of the Big Ten. And Purdue's got to learn those guys, especially Lawyer's going to have to learn they're not going to call those fouls. He's a freshman in this league. And I think that if he was a junior or senior, maybe he'd build up enough equity to get some of those calls. He's getting physically dealt with in a nice words on the front end. I'm sure Indiana will try to do some of that as well. You look back at the first game between the two teams, and Lawyer and Smith combined for a 5 for 20 from the field. Those guys need to be both not only capable of handling the basketball, but being offensive threats. So, yeah, I think the scouting, the formula is there to beat Purdue, but also Fletcher Lawyer's been pretty damn good in his freshman year. So, I anticipate that he's going to, as time continues to evolve, he's going to continue to evolve as a player and do the things that they need him to do to be at that level that Purdue wants to be at.
Alan Karpick of goldenblack.com, part of the On3 Network, joining us on Kevin and Query this morning. Mason Gillis got the nod over Caleb First in the Ohio State game due to an illness. Mason Gillis also had a season high in rebounds in that game. Are they going to roll with Mason Gillis again in the starting lineup tomorrow, or are they going to go back to Caleb First?
I would think that Gillis will be in the lineup again tomorrow night. I would expect that to be. I don't know that it matters that much, except for that Gillis has done, with the 29-point outburst against Penn State. He has shown a little bit more of an ability to shoot the basketball from a consistent standpoint. I mean, they're just different players. Matt Painter, and it's a luxury to have. You've got 9 guys that you could go a lot of different ways and play the hot hand. And for the most part this year, yes, I understand the last 5 games haven't been the best for Purdue, but this is a team that's had some interchangeable parts. And when David Jenkins has come off the bench and given really good minutes from time to time, even Brandon Newman has as well. Trey Kaufman-Renn is becoming more confident and is doing more as a backup to Zach Edey, and also sometimes as a backup 4. So, I would anticipate that you're going to see Gillis, just because Gillis has been doing the job in a lot of different ways, and there's some general feeling that First is maybe a little bit more comfortable coming off the bench.
Alan, you touched on something that is really intriguing to me. Trey Kaufman-Renn, we have seen, obviously, in some games, the reason that he was such a touted player coming in and his skill set to be a guy who, quite frankly, probably can, if necessity was there for it, contribute, more minutes, more points, etc. I've been very impressed by his desire to kind of, to redshirt out and then to be situational. But is Purdue, as they continue to try to navigate the role of Trey Kaufman-Renn, in today's college basketball, are they like, is there a window of time that they've got to figure it out before then all of a sudden it becomes what do they do with him? And I don't mean that as a knock on him. I could see him saying, hey, I could go somewhere else and get a lot of minutes, and that's today's college basketball. Sure. What is it about him that allows them that flexibility?
Well, I think he's shown that he's contributing. He has become more of a back to the basket type guy, and though he can be on the court, I think you're going to see more of that in time. But when you have Zach Edey and an offense that's to some extent predicated on getting the ball inside consistently, I think you got to give the guy, which he's a lot of credit from Trey Kaufman-Renn, that is, for doing what he needs to do to contribute. I think he's going to see his game elevate next year and years beyond, whether Zach Edey is in a Purdue uniform or not. You never know in today's transfer portal world what can happen and what guys want to do. But I think he's been very committed to taking the longer road to this. Obviously, he redshirted last year. He had injuries as well, but there wasn't any room at the end last year for Trey Kaufman-Renn to get significant minutes. And even this year, it's not been as much as I'm sure he would like, but you're playing behind Zach Edey. But, it's going to be interesting to see how they work him also into the 4 spot some, which we have seen Edey and Kaufman-Renn maybe play a little bit more together. That's possible. Depends a little bit on the production of Caleb First as well. So all those factors would make for a lot of intrigue, but I think it's a good problem if you're a Purdue fan and a Purdue coach and Matt Painter to have, is you've got a guy that's really playing much better, getting more confidence, and whether he's playing 10 to 12 minutes, and that's typically the case, he's been coming in and contributing consistently of late. And that's been a big plus for Purdue.
After losing back-to-back games for the first time, Purdue then bounces back and gets really the medicine they need with a big win over Ohio State. And I know Ohio State's down. Having said that, what did they do differently, or was there anything that you felt like you saw, Alan, in the Ohio State win that kind of let you take a sigh of relief after the 2 losses to Maryland and Northwestern going into it, where you said, okay, that's an area that they did kind of shore things up? Other than simply playing a bad team?
Well, and 2 things. One, Ohio State, Ohio State has really struggled. And really that struggle started when Purdue beat them in a game it probably shouldn't have won in Columbus on January 5th. That certainly started part of the Buckeyes spiral down. I think the biggest thing maybe was the turnovers, taking care of the basketball. Purdue is so dominant on the offensive glass, or can be, should be. And when you turn the ball over, that's what killed them against Indiana in the first half. When you're down 15 in the game 3 weeks ago, Indiana turned it into a run-out dunk show in the first half, and that was because Purdue couldn't hang on to the basketball. Well, against Ohio State, they had 11 turnovers officially, but a couple of them came in mop-up time. And they had 2 or 3 turnovers in the early part of the game, but they went through for about 35 minutes with about 5 turnovers. Purdue just needs to get the shots up, let Zach Edey and Caleb First and others on the offensive boards go get it. They're the best offensive rebounding, or we're the top 2 or 3 offensive rebounding teams in the country, and they just need to go and do the job in there. And that's, I think, is the big factor, and that starts with not having 15 and 16 turnovers, which is what happened in those 3 in that streak of 3 losses in 5 games.
Alan Karpick joining us for another couple minutes here on Kevin and Query. With all that said, Alan, what do you expect to see tomorrow at night in West Lafayette?
Well, I think it certainly is, obviously with Northwestern's loss last night, boy, the Wildcats had a huge lead in that game, as you guys have talked about, and let it go. I just think it comes down to it's going to be a lot of emotion in that building. Heck, tickets are going for stump up for over $1,000 each in the lower arena for tomorrow, and that's craziness. So it's going to be Purdue, Indiana, you don't need anything else. But when you have a potential Big Ten championship on the line, there's a lot of motivation. There's motivation for Indiana, too. Indiana obviously would love to sweep Purdue in a year that Purdue's probably still going to win the Big Ten, even if Indiana wins tomorrow night. But I think it'll be a very competitive game. And I think it'll be a case of, and I don't know, and I don't follow Indiana on a night-in, night-out basis, but it seems to me a lot of it, like you talked about earlier, comes down to the guard play, and does Jalen Hood-Schifino play like a guy that's going to be playing in the NBA before long, or does he struggle like he has to some extent on the road? Is it going to be the IU team that played at Illinois? is it going to be an IU team that struggled at Penn State and Maryland? That's what's going to be the storyline. It will be a jacked up environment in Mackey Arena, as it was in Assembly Hall 3 weeks ago. That's just the nature of this rivalry.
Alan, the team that has the blue, and by team I mean a team that does what, has the blueprint that could give Purdue fits in the tournament?
I think it's a team that can force Purdue into mistakes in the backcourt. Shooting is shooting, and every team's going to have some off nights. But if Purdue cannot get the ball consistently into Edey and they force Purdue to be careless with the basketball, I think that could be Purdue's Achilles heel. That's it for a lot of teams. I just think that there's so much parity in the country this year. There's no great teams. Yes, Purdue's been number one for a good period of time, but they are one of the certainly an upper echelon team. But I think the amazing thing about the tournament is going to be those 1-8 games. What happens if Purdue plays Kentucky in the second round, or excuse me, it would be the third round actually in the NCAA tournament. I mean, those types of games where your guards have to be really good, and Purdue's guards have been good this year. Now, I'm not saying they haven't. I'm just saying that's going to be at a premium. I think Zach Edey is pretty much a known quantity of what he's going to do. Yes, teams will double team him. That type of thing may limit his production, but he's such a dominant force, and that really hasn't changed in very many games this year. But it's going to come down to great guard play, and can you make shots? I mean, that's stating the obvious, but can Purdue make shots? Mason Gillis, David Jenkins Jr., guys that have had hot streaks from three. You do that, and Purdue's going to be a really hard out for just about anybody.
On3.com is where you can read Alan's work. Alan, it's early, so I appreciate you getting up early with us. Always good stuff, and look forward to talking to you again.
All right, guys, have a great rest of the show, and we'll look forward to, I'm sure the rest of the season goes on. There's going to be a lot of talk about Purdue and Indiana basketball, and that's a good thing.
That is very fair to state, Alan. Absolutely. Appreciate it. Alan Karpick on the Payless Liquors Hotline. When we come back, we switch from the college level to the high school level, amongst other things, at Greg Rakestraw, who yesterday you heard on these airwaves in the midday show. He will join us coming up here at the top of the hour on a Friday edition of Kevin and Query, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Rick Venturi from the radio network, the former NFL coach, is with us. I think Chris Ballard recalibrates what he envisions in a football team.
In my opinion, I don't think this is any time for conservatism. I don't even like the joke of trading back, to be honest with you. I don't even like the quip. I think that we have to get to one.
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 to 6.
On 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
A girl in Kenya dreams of becoming a doctor. An elder in Guatemala dreams of becoming part of a community. Reach out and change their world, and it will change your own. Unbound.org.
One thing I've thought a lot about this winter is how to save on my heating bill. Our house was built in 1929. You walk every level and going up the windows, you can feel that cold air just seeping in. We've clearly got a window issue. Those windows maybe have been there since 1929. And that's where our friends at Window Nation can help all of us out. Window Nation's got the coolest deal ever for keeping you warm. You pay $0 down, make 0 payments, and get 0% financing for 24 months. That's 2 years, no interest. Plus, you get 2 free windows with every 2 you buy with no limit. So take advantage of Window Nation's deep discounts, all while reinvesting in your biggest asset, not to mention the energy savings for years to come. So call 866-90-NATION or go online at windownation.com. About 43% of your utility bill is heating costs. You can save up to 30% on your heating bills with Window Nation. So call 866-90-NATION or go online at windownation.com.
Bowling, 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 keep them balls a-rolling. Bowling, bowling, bowling.
Royal Pin.
Looking for family fun or a night out with friends? Royal Pin Entertainment has you covered. Skip the line and make a reservation online at royalpin.com. Looking to host an event or have a small group? Royal Pin is here to help. Contact their sales team to get a deal on parties of 20 or more. Just email events@royalpin.com. With 3 convenient locations around Indianapolis, Royal Pin offers bowling, laser tag, mini golf, and arcades. Awesome family fun. Call your local center at 317-465-8484 or go to royalpin.com to get the ball rolling with Royal Pin.
Set 'em up. Knock 'em down, send them flying, spinning round.
Call 317-465-8484 or go to royalpin.com today.
Royal Pin. Royal Pin.
Union Pacific Railroad wants you to join its team. It's an opportunity that comes with great pay and benefits. There are a variety of open roles across its 23-state network, including train crew positions, with hiring and relocation incentives of up to $50,000 in some locations. You can even get a free college education while working. Union Pacific Railroad connects hundreds of communities, hauling goods Americans rely on every day. Get your career on the right track with Union Pacific and apply today at up.jobs/sports. That's up.jobs/sports.
Blue 22.
Those are sports sounds. And people love sports so much, it makes them pay attention when I say, drivers who switch and save with Progressive could save hundreds.
It's way back. It's out of here.
And we all know how sports fans feel about big saves.
What a save.
See what I did there? Save is also a sports word. So save big when you switch to Progressive. Ooh, that's a golf clap.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary.
O'Reilly. Count on the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts to recommend the best products for your vehicle and budget. Get maximum cooling system performance for 10 years or 300,000 miles with peak long life universal premixed antifreeze and coolant. Now just $6.99 after mail-in rebate. Limit supply. See store for details. Stop by your local O'Reilly Auto Parts today.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey, it's Dan Dockich here. You know, for years on my radio show, I asked people to help me out. I needed a treatment, aches and pains. I couldn't lose weight. Well, guess what? I found a solution. I did. Affinity Whole Health. All you've got to do is go to feelgreatindy.com and look into it for yourself. The testosterone program that I am on has been a godsend. I've missed no workouts in 6 months. No more aches and pains. And I have lost weight. FeelGreatIndy.com is the place to go. Get started just like I did.
Hey, it's JMV. When you're ready to improve the water in your home, reach out to my friends at Connecticut and set up a free in-home water test. They'll come out whenever it is convenient for you, no matter what time of day, to tell you what exactly is going down with your water and how they can improve it. Visit ConnecticutIndy.com or call 800-444-1387 today. And when you set up that appointment, tell them JMV sent you and receive an additional $100 in savings when you buy in the month of February. ConnecticutIndy.com.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
WIBC HD2 W298BB. WIBC HD3 W228CX. Indianapolis. The IHSAA Girls Basketball State Finals. Tomorrow morning at 11 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
8 o'clock hour underway. I'd like to say hello to Matt this morning, who sent a tweet saying, clearly Kevin Bowen's the glue to the morning show. I probably don't disagree with that, right?
Yeah. I mean, he's the glue, because if he's not here, then we're just the two rubber bands that bounce off of each other.
And he was the guy that was here first, right?
He was,
That's a
yeah.
fair statement. Joining us now on the Payless Liquors Hotline, a guy that's been on this program many times, and you are very familiar with his voice, Greg Rakestraw, who this weekend, Greg, I want to begin with this. It's the IHSAA championship weekend for girls basketball, and I think sometimes that and I want your thoughts on this, I think sometimes when it comes to high school sports, we get very swept up in like legendary players and simply like what teams have been dominant. And we lose sight sometimes of what I think it really all means. And I made reference to this story earlier in the week. But when I look at Fishers, who's going to take on Bedford North Lawrence, our friend Scott Long, who you know as well, who's been on this radio show, you know, Scott's daughter Maddie is a special needs student who has kind of she's been a manager and helped out with the girls basketball team, and the girls on that team have absolutely taken her under her wing, and she does a dance, you know, to the pep band before and after each game, and has really just kind of blossomed. I think, I don't know her well, but I follow the journey via Scott on social media, and she's just blossomed by getting a confidence and an identity from the girls, and their success as a team has given her, like this purpose that she's proud of. And I think, that's actually what it's all about. As much as it's about, at this level, kids winning a ring, it's about the other kids and the people that are able to then feel good about themselves. And I think also with your hometown of Lanesville, this has to be for you a matter of a personal identity, because you understand what it might mean for a town that has gone through some struggles to be able to have something to push their chest out about. Does that make sense on both counts?
Sure. I mean, so first of all, on Maddie's story, and just like you, Scott and I are friends, and obviously Scott and I both have children on the autism spectrum, so this, truly resonates with me. Lauren Votaw, the head coach at Fisher's, the fact that, she was so willing to have Maddie be a part of her program is just so cool and is just so special. And yes, Scott and Susan get to have experiences as parents that when you have a child with autism, you're not sure you're going to have. And so for as wonderful as this is for Maddie, because of my life experiences, I'm thinking of mom and dad. And the fact that they too get to have this moment that, again, when you realize your child is diagnosed with autism or has whatever special need of the multitudes you could have, your first thought is always the care and concern of your son or daughter. But then it hits you at some point in time, I'm not going to get to have these other experiences because my kid may not get to have that experience. And so that strikes me, and it's all because of the generosity and openness. Everything you said about her teammates is absolutely spot on. But it's the head coach that gave the opportunity. And so the fact that Lauren did that, she will forever be cool in my book, regardless of what she does. And she's an outstanding coach. But the fact that she opened the door for that has made all of this possible. Now, secondarily, on to the fact that my hometown is all leaving at some point today to come to Indianapolis to get a hotel room, and I'm sure there will be a line outside Gainbridge Fieldhouse about 8 or 8:30 tomorrow morning, and there will be a purple stampede at 9:30 when the doors open. Get everybody in the building to soak up as much of that energy and atmosphere and moment as possible. So I am so fortunate. I have now broadcast over 200 IHSAA state championship games, and 3 of them have involved Lanesville. The baseball team runners-up in 2016, 1A champs in 2017. I literally just started doing softball right after Lanesville made it their other state finals trip, which was back in 2006. And the line that I have used a great deal this week, when I was in school, I graduated 3 years before class sports started, and we got beat by New Albany. Literally, there's a guy that played all 3 sports that beat us. I'm standing on first base talking on my last baseball game, and probably can't use the language I said with a smile on my face that I did to Steve Stemley back then. But the idea of having a state championship is kind of like when Norman Dale talks about the state championship in Hoosiers. He goes, kind of like me and you going to the moon. We didn't dream about winning a state championship in Lanesville. We dreamed about winning a sectional. When I graduated high school, we had 3 sectional championships combined in the history of the school. 1 in cross country, 1 in baseball, and 1 in boys tennis. And now we're competing for a second state championship. The girls basketball team has won 5 consecutive sectionals to get to this point. So it's otherworldly to me that I get to go to these state finals on a regular basis, but that like all of my family, I've got 4 relatives that play on the team. And so I will give people a heads up as to what my social media plan is for tomorrow. At some point before I go on the air, I rarely take selfies. I'm going to take one right in front of the Lanesville section and try to get as much of it as I can. I'm going to label it as family picture because I have so looked forward to this moment because, it just wasn't something on my radar that could actually happen when I began my broadcasting career.
How many people live in Lanesville?
Population is about 700 or 800. The school has almost doubled in size since I graduated. So I was a class of 29, and the enrollment at the high school was about 140 at the time. Now the average class size is 60 to 70, and the enrollment's kind of 240 and 250. And the crazy thing is that with the population growth down there, at some point soon, we may actually kind of grow ourselves out of Class A. Lanesville is a single township school, and the comparison that I make, it's not as big as this school corporation, which is a couple of townships. But the comparison I make here is Lanesville is akin to Monrovia. In other words, if you're coming from the west, it's the last small town you get to before you get to the suburbs and the big city. Same thing is. What's directly east of Lanesville is Floyd Central in New Albany, and a lot of folks that live in Lanesville work in Louisville. It's a 25-minute drive at most to get to downtown. So the suburbs are catching up, and that's part of the reason why the athletic success has gone up at Lanesville High School, because the community is so much bigger than it was when I lived there 30 years ago.
Okay, there is one school, Greg, that is playing this weekend in the girls' high school basketball finals that I don't know that I've ever heard of. Which school is it?
I would assume Bethany Christian is the one you're referencing.
No, I know Bethany Christian. You got another guess?
So the other would be Fairfield, then, correct?
Correct. I know the hotel, but tell me, where is Fairfield, the Falcons, who are taking on Corydon Central?
So, remarkably, the 1A and 3A stories are amazingly similar. Fairfield and Bethany Christian are 5 miles apart from each other. Lanesville and Corydon are 8 miles apart from each other. So the 1A and 3A games will be contested by a set of next-door neighbors. Fairfield has been kind of on that enrollment bump between 2A and 3A. So Fairfield made a deep run in 2A last year, didn't go up on the success factor, went up on enrollment. So their enrollment would be upper 500s, because about 575 is kind of the 2A, 3A cutoff at this point. Fairfield's had some volleyball success in the past. They've had some good basketball teams, and they got to this point by knocking off an undefeated Twin Lakes team in the semi-state last weekend.
All right, fair enough. I'm looking at it right here.
Yep.
Gary Cannon, the superintendent's very excited about Fairfield getting in. So, what do you know? I thought it was a hotel.
Greg, we got a big one in college basketball tomorrow with IU taking on Purdue. You think IU's hit a wall lately with their loss to Michigan State and Trace Jackson-Davis kind of struggling, or how do you see this one playing out tomorrow in West Lafayette?
This is called schedule. I think Indiana would have beaten Michigan State had that game been contested under normal circumstances. There are certain things that happen in life, and when you are the first team to have to go to Michigan State and play a game after what happened on that campus early last week, you're not going to win that basketball game. That was an emotional buzzsaw that IU ran into. So, yeah, there were things that Trace could have done better, the team could have done better. You were not going to win that game at Michigan State. I'm not sure they're going to win the game at Purdue tomorrow either.
Jake's got them losing by 15.
Purdue by 15 tomorrow.
I was sure be that, but knowing that how good Purdue has been, and I know Purdue has not been playing as well, but given the fact that Purdue's been thinking about this 3 weeks and knowing they lost at Indiana, the return date, I kind of like the Boilers' chances tomorrow. What I will say is this. For as great as it is that those two teams are nationally relevant playing each other, because we have had that in such short supply over the last 25 years, I'm not overly concerned about how tomorrow's game plays out. And that's not anti-IU, anti-Purdue. We have just hit the point of the season where I kind of know what these teams are, and now I want to see what they can do in March.
Well, I think, Greg, the storyline to me for Indiana and Purdue both, if you had to come up with one, because I tend to agree with you, we got a pretty good idea who these teams are, even though both have lost 2 or 3 coming in. I think it feels like they have both done a really good job of building a resume to this point to put them in good position. Now they want to simply make sure they don't backpedal too much and fall off of the line of seeding of which they've cemented themselves. And I do think that Purdue is still, despite losing 2 of 3, they are still on the 1 seed line, but they're at risk of perhaps sliding down to a 2. And in Indiana's case, I think Indiana's pretty firmly in that 4-5 area. They just don't want to slide all the way back to a 6.
You got it. I mean, at the very high end, Indiana, they run the table, gets to a 3. On the bottom end, they're a 6. Purdue's a 1 seed, maybe a 2. Yes, there's a difference in being a 1 seed or a 2. But just because of the I wouldn't even say recent history, for Indiana, but of their lack of tournament success, to me, everything is about getting to the second weekend and then take it from there. Let's go see what you can do. And everything for Purdue is getting to the second weekend and getting past that. Getting past that Sweet 16, getting to a Final Four. And again, I'm not sure we thought that was possible with this group when the season started, but then you're ranked number 1 for as many weeks as they were. It tends to be Final Four or bust. So it's kind of why, yes, it's great that these rivals are playing each other on February the 25th. I know Mackey's going to be packed. I know it's going to be crazy. But at the same time, I'm much more concerned, with are these teams playing on March 25th than how they are playing on February the 25th.
Ball State going to make the NCAA tournament, Rake?
If they win the Mid-American Conference. It's the same thing with Indiana State. There are so few opportunities for low to mid-majors to not have to win their conference tournament and make it to the NCAA field. Florida Atlantic would be one of those teams. I think Oral Roberts potentially could be one of those teams, and maybe Charleston is one of those teams this year. But no, for as good of a seasons as Ball State and Indiana State have had, both at 20 wins, they know they have to win three games in 3 days at their conference tournament to be an NCAA tournament team.
And, Rake, it's fascinating because here's Michael Lewis in his first year at Ball State. They've got 20 wins. If they were to eke their way into the tournament, and then can you imagine if they win a tournament game, and I know we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but Ball State, I think everybody knew when Michael Lewis came there that Ball State was probably at some point going to have to start getting creative in ways to keep him there. But that could come as early as like April, right? I mean, depending on what they do here.
That is the possible case. And again, it's a big part of Michael's background in terms of, when you're in a high-profile program like UCLA, and frankly, his time at Butler was pretty doggone successful as well as an assistant coach. He's got that experience in a Power 5 program. It's why I think it is possible he could be one and done in Muncie if they go on a run over the course of the next few weeks.
And when you talk about coaches that, moving on, we know that that's going to take place with the Colts. Bubba Ventrone on his way out, going to Cleveland. On his way out the wrong way. He opted to go to Cleveland. But how big is that?
I would rather they have kept him, but I still think it's about the players. And yes, the Colts special teams have been pretty solid and pretty good. The return game has been pretty dynamic. Does Bubba take some credit for that? Absolutely, he should. But you also had some guys that were playmakers back there in Nyheim Hines. Dallas Flowers has shown to be that guy, the guy out of Pittsburgh State. Ashton Newland showed some pop when he was in the return game. He's been phenomenal as a gunner. So I would have preferred they kept Bubba Ventrone. Sad to see him go, but I am very much a proponent. It is largely about the guys on the field with that little extra added difference, being the guys wearing, a hat, a sweatshirt, or holding a clipboard on the sidelines.
Greg Rakestraw joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline on Kevin and Query. Rake, Ventrone was at the Shane Steichen introductory press conference. Do you think, so it's kind of a surprise that he ended up leaving, the departure due to the fact that he didn't get consideration for the interim head coaching job at the time, or is it just because Cleveland's home and home's where the heart is?
I have no idea. I've had some conversations with Bubba. I wouldn't claim that I know the inner workings of the man. I really think that, having played in Cleveland, maybe it's a chance to go back there. I can't imagine it's hard feelings about not getting the head coaching job, or maybe this move gets announced earlier. And again, I liken it to, let's kind of go take the organizational flow chart in terms of the dominoes that fell in the last 6 or 7 weeks. Once you knew that Chris Ballard was going to stay as the general manager, that it needed to be on him to hire the head coach. And largely it was in terms of Shane Steichen. And now once you hire Shane Steichen, what you have to do is say, Shane, go set your staff. So you can't handcuff him and saying, hey, you got to keep this guy and that guy and that guy. No, if we, and saying we as the Colts organization, if we believe in you to be the head coach of this team, then you need to set your staff. So to me, it's probably more along the lines of what Shane Steichen wanted to do than say anything else in particular.
5 days from now, we will be just down the road at the Indianapolis Convention Center for the NFL Scouting Combine. Outside of quarterback, Rake, what is the next position group the Colts should be looking at long and hard with great interest at the Combine?
I think it's got to be wide receiver, just because you need to add more weaponry, obviously, on this offense. The receivers played well to start the season. Nobody played well to end the season. But it's pretty obvious that, whomever the quarterback is going to be, you have to have more weapons around him. And so you love Michael Pittman Jr. You saw flashes from Alec Pierce. Paris Campbell, you're unsure of his status. And then you get my point. You have to be looking at wide receiver. So the second round seemingly has been fruitful for the Colts at wide receiver. I would imagine they go that direction. In terms of free agency, which is after the Combine, but before the draft, I'd love to see maybe a little offensive line boost in terms of free agency. If they do that with a veteran wide receiver, I'm not upset about that either. But specifically for the Combine, obviously your focus is those top 3 or 4 guys at QB. After that, look at the wide receiver position.
Greg, that's to me why I agree with you on receiver. To me, there are too many critical positions that need to be plugged to go along with whatever quarterback you bring in that puts them in the pickle of trading up. I get the fact of the value of securing that you can get your definitive guy.
Yep.
But if you're still drafting 4th, to me, giving up that second-round pick, if that's part of the cost of moving up 3 spots, is really, really a heavy price tag because exactly what you say, they need playmakers to go with it.
And that's why, again, we tend to get lasered on the draft, and I realize the Combine's here, it's in our backyard, and again, when you're picking in the top 5, it is a very big deal. I get that. But you can read the tea leaves of what the Colts do about 2 weeks after in terms of free agency. And if there is a potential veteran brought in at wide receiver, and again, let's kind of put Paris Campbell off to the side in terms of a returning free agent of this team, if he's back or not. But if it's somebody else, and you go, okay, there's help at wide receiver, that could be your tip off the Colts potentially moving that second round pick.
Yeah, I just, man, I know Chris Ballard, covets Greg having multiple picks like in that 3 to 5, and I'm with him this year. This year, I'm saying hold on to the pieces. You don't want to give up pieces, but we'll see what happens. Greg, appreciate the time. Enjoy the games this weekend. All right.
You got it, fellas. Take care.
That's Greg Rakestraw on the Payless Liquors hotline. Time, by the way, for a morning checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Ball State Basketball. Get your tickets at ballstatesports.com on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Pacers last night at the Fieldhouse. Overtime loss to the Boston Celtics, 142-138. Miles Turner was sensational, 40 points and 10 boards. Tyrese Halliburton had 22 with 14 assists. Did kind of force some shots late, I thought, but overall, pretty good to see Miles Turner get the shooting that basically Indiana has said that they covet from him in terms of his particular role. One guy that we haven't heard from a lot but has always been kind of a staple and a focal point from the Pacers themselves, T.J. McConnell. Here's T.J. McConnell talking about Miles Turner and Turner's shooting last night.
He's unreal. On both ends of the floor. He's the best shot blocker in the NBA. And his ability to pick and pop is such a mismatch. And, he hasn't really been the starting 5 since he's been here. And he's showing how great he really is in that role, by his ability to put pressure on the rim. And, when teams switch, he can shoot over guys. And he has that little mid-range. He can score from 3 levels. So, and then what he does defensively speaks for itself. He's just a really good player.
Again, Turner last night, 8 of 10 from three-point range. Pacers now on the road. They got 4 in a row beginning in Orlando. That coming up tomorrow night. Elsewhere in the NBA last night, Denver, Orlando, the Sixers, the Raptors, the Mavs, the Jazz, the Lakers, and Sacramento all get wins. The Kings 133-116 over Portland. Domas Sabonis, a triple-double, 18 points, 18 rebounds, and 10 assists.
College hoops, IUPUI snapped their 4-game skid, topping Robert Morris 81-75. Milwaukee over Purdue Fort Wayne 95-94. Tennessee Tech beat Southern Indiana 82-79. Of course, the big one tomorrow night in West Lafayette, IU visiting Purdue at 7:30.
Did you not want to get into your XFL scores?
Do you want to do XFL again? I mean, we do need to boost our ratings out of the top 15.
St. Louis over Seattle, baby, right?
Oh, the Battlehawks. That's more of a crow, I guess. But
I think the Battlehawks, though. Now, here's a question: do you think Battlehawks means like birds, or does it mean like I think it's like ships, isn't it? That they're nicknaming as hawks.
I think so. I think that's correct.
Aren't these like naval Battlehawks?
Yeah.
I think their logo is some sort of
It's like a sword with wings on it or something.
A Battlehawk is a form of helicopter that the military uses.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay, I don't know why I was thinking like fleet carrier.
The current tagline for the Battlehawks that I've heard is "Caw is law."
Well, Chicken Hawks wasn't that the name of the nickname for helicopters during Vietnam, right? Bell helicopters. Okay, so Sam with the info there. Battlehawks.
There you go.
That makes
Educate
sense.
and entertain.
Sorry, I was Googling chicken hawk real quick. You were putting me on the spot there. That's just a type of bird as far as I can see.
There was a famous book written about the helicopter platoons in Vietnam called Chicken Hawk. I know that. So that's maybe that was what the guy was calling himself.
There you go.
But nonetheless. We come back. We'll talk more about that Colts news with Bubba Ventrone. We've talked about that over the course of the weekend. A little more on Indiana and Purdue. Don Fischer joining us at 9 o'clock. It's Kevin and Corey on a Friday, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Texting enrolls you in a recurring automated marketing text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Nice run. It's great being back out on the mountain. You sort of disappeared for a while. Everything okay? Between you and me, it was lower testosterone. Lower T? Yeah. The doc told me once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone, and that can make it harder to stay in shape. That's why I started taking Nugenix Total T. It's made a huge difference.
Oh, I've seen that on TV. Is it for real?
For sure. It's the #1 doctor-recommended testosterone booster. It boosts free and total testosterone levels to help you get back the drive and energy from your youth. My wife, my boss, my kids. Everyone has noticed a change in me.
Do they still give out complimentary bottles for people to try for themselves?
Yes, just send them a text.
Guys, text HEFTY to 321-321 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T. Nugenix is the #1 selling testosterone brand at GNC and Walmart. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back in shape fast, absolutely free. Text HEFTY to 321-321. That's HEFTY to 321-321.
Were you born from 1945 to 1965? Have you heard of hepatitis C? Hepatitis C is a leading cause of liver cancer, yet it often has no symptoms. And people born from 1945 to 1965 are 5 times more likely to have it. But here's some good news. Treatments are now available that can cure hepatitis C, which is why you should talk with your doctor about getting a blood test for hepatitis C. It could save your life. A message from the CDC.
Junior Maddie Nolan can fill it up, but she's one of those playmakers that does a little bit of everything. 22 points a game, almost 6 rebounds, and she is somebody that can hit it from the outside but drive it to the basket. She was the engine that makes this team run and has been playing terrific basketball in postseason play.
6-point lead for Warren Central. Three-minute mark.
We'll get a little screen for Nolan. Let her shoot it.
Can't leave her open. You just cannot leave her open. She's too good. 17 for Maddie Nolan.
I would say go to that well over and over again if they're going to stay in that 2-3 zone.
Zionsville's Maddie Nolan right there, the featured player today. 2018 4A state championship. Zionsville on the wrong side of it, falling to Warren Central 50-46. Back then, that was Jane Schott and Mark Janes on the call. 17 points in 32 minutes played. 3 of 6 from the three-point line, 4 rebounds, 3 steals, and went on to be an Indiana All-Star. Maddie Nolan, a senior at the University of Michigan, now starting every game of the season for the top 15-ranked Wolverines, scoring in double figures 8 times, and Maddie now ranks top 10 all-time in career three-pointers in Michigan Wolverine history.
You know, it's been 51 years since the introduction of Title IX, and that heritage combined with Indiana basketball history has been given, of course, a lot of women the opportunity to aspire perhaps to someday play on the court that they're going to play on this weekend, but instead for the Indiana Fever of the WNBA. There have been trailblazers like Pat Roy and, of course, the first ever Miss Basketball, Judy Warren, that have set the stage for young women to be able to partake and become the next stars of Indiana high school basketball. Your chance to see them, actually, is, in fact, this weekend, because when you buy a ticket, you're directly supporting athletic departments at your local school for the IHSAA and perhaps seeing the future stars of basketball. Don't miss it, because nothing compares to attending the IHSAA Basketball State Finals in person.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
The blood expanded across the fields like chrysanthemums.
I don't necessarily, Mark, think that there are. We were just talking to Greg about this. I think it's an interesting conversation. It seems as though it is inevitable that the Colts are going to take a quarterback with their first pick.
Sure looks that way.
But what if Chris Ballard looks at it and says, you know what? I really like next year's quarterback draft class. And I really think that we could get our guy. We're better off waiting a year. If you're Chris Ballard and you're looking at it and you're saying, I've got and Chris Ballard now, it appears would have this leash. If he says, I've got a 3 to 5 year window, not a 1 year window. And the combination of take Bryce Young or whoever it may be, Will Levis, C.J. Stroud. Is it possible that Chris Ballard looks at those guys and says, that quarterback added with the pieces that I can get in this year's draft in the second, third, fourth round adds up to less than what I would get with holding on to the fourth pick and using it elsewhere, holding on to the picks that I have and free agency, and then adding those pieces to the quarterback that would be available for me even beyond a top 5 pick in 1 year from now. Is it possible that Chris Ballard says, I'm actually going to go one more run with the Band-Aid procedure, and I'm going to draft a generational, whether it be a lineman or skill set player in this year's draft, and go with Gardner Minshew and Sam Ehlinger as my quarterbacks, and then a year from now, I believe there are, let's say, 3 quarterbacks that are better than the 3 that I would be choosing from this year.
I don't disagree that he could be thinking that. I don't think that the ownership aspect will want that. I mean, we heard in the introductory press conference for Shane Steichen that Jim Irsay really likes the Alabama quarterback. So he's kind of hinting.
He didn't say that. He didn't say that, though, Mark. What did Jim Irsay say?
He said he likes. Didn't he say that he likes the Alabama guy?
Correct.
That's right.
He
the
said,
Alabama guy. So I guess you could say he's talking about someone else, but I think a lot of people assumed he's talking about Bryce Young.
Agreed, but who is scheduled? Who is the only non-quarterback that is projected to go in the top 3 picks?
Will Anderson.
Where does he play?
Alabama.
See? So could Jim Irsay there have been playing? Everybody giggled, right?
Mm-hmm.
All he said was the Alabama guy looks really good. Yeah, 75% chance what he was saying there was Bryce Young.
Yeah, that's true. Yes, he didn't say it outright, but yeah, I think a lot of people assumed that he would be talking about the quarterback and not the defensive end.
Here is a mock draft, and what do I say about mock drafts? They're great because we can mock them. Here is a mock draft that has Jalen Carter from Georgia going number 1 overall to your Bears. Okay. This is if there's no trade out.
Uh-huh.
The Houston Texans, they have taking C.J. Stroud. Then Will Anderson going to Arizona, who theoretically does not need a quarterback. Now, this is hard to think that nobody would trade up. And then with the 4th pick, they have Bryce Young going to the Colts. I agree with this. I'm going to make a projection here. I'm going to make a prediction and a projection. Is that the same thing?
I think so.
There is no doubt about the fact. You mark my words right now, as sure as the fact that today is a Friday and it's a gorgeous sunrise, you mark my words on this. And if I'm wrong, people can line up on Monument Circle with signs pointing up towards the 6th floor here, telling me that I'm wrong. Right now, I think everybody agrees that Bryce Young is the quarterback that is number one going into the combine. Very rarely does the guy that's number one going into the combine. The problem with being the number one guy going into a combine is no one is looking for reasons to submit you as number one. They are rather looking for reasons to pull you away from it.
Exactly. Like I said, his size, when they measure his height, that is going to be under scrutiny all year. All
you mark my words. 2 weeks from right now, you will start hearing all kinds of conversation and speculation that teams are going to trade up because they've now believed that C.J. Stroud is the number one quarterback available in the draft. And Will Levis is going to have Josh Allen level intrigue where people are going to fall in love with Will Levis because he's going to go to the combine and he's going to throw a 75-yard pass in the air and he's going to show quote-unquote arm talent, and they're going to be like, this guy is unbelievable, but he was throwing to inferior weapons at Kentucky versus the others that are there, and Will Levis is the curveball in all of this. He has Josh Allen type potential. You're going to hear that over and over, and Levis is going to start being mentioned within the conversation. And then you're going to hear Anthony Richardson, though. Boy, I'll tell you what, the show he put on when he came out there and he ran an unbelievable 40, and his high jump is incredible, and he actually was able to pull 7 sled dogs outside, and then he jumped on top of the idle jorg broad. It was amazing, and Anthony Richardson is absolutely, and you're going to hear all kinds of stuff about his athleticism, and we believe we can teach him how to be quarterback.
I guarantee you're going to hear that. And not only all that, you're going to hear Hendon Hooker. He's the dark horse.
That's right.
Someone's going to take a chance, and they're going to be very happy.
Keep in mind, if it weren't for the injury, he'd be top 10. You're going to hear that, right? Yep. When it comes to quarterbacks in the NFL and it comes to the NFL Combine, which is basically summer chapter for college coaches, for NFL coaches to wear their sweatsuits, walk around, go to St. Amand, go, hey, coach, you good? You good, coach? You good?
Yep.
One of the things that absolutely will jump out. There is always a combine warrior. Who was the guy that went out of Boston College that nobody had heard of, and then he shows up at the combine, and he literally, this guy was brilliant. He shows up at the combine. He's like projected to be like a 3rd-round pick, but he had an agent that said, here are the 6 things that they look at the most. Work on these 6 drills for like a year. So this guy shows up, and he broad jumps higher than everybody, and he does everything. He does 37 reps on the bench press, and he lat pulls 5,000 pounds, and everybody's like, holy cow. And literally the Philadelphia Eagles take him like 7th overall, and he plays like 12 games in his NFL career. That's the lesson of the combine. But I'm telling you, I'm not saying Bryce Young's not going number 1 overall. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, if you are the Chicago Bears, and right now, the stock for that number 1 pick is never going to be higher because people are like, oh, man, Bryce Young, like that's the guy we've got to move up. Once they go through the combine, the value of that number 1 pick, I believe, it could go one of 2 ways. I mean, it could be that Bryce Young is so unbelievable or Stroud is so unbelievable that you feel like you have to get him at number 1 and you got to trade up to do it. But I think rather what you're going to see is the stock of Richardson, Levis, and in my opinion, Stroud, are going to raise to the point where the disparity between Young and the other 3 is going to be deemed less than what it originally was, and therefore I think the Colts, if they choose to do so, are going to be safe at 4.
See, I think you're going to probably get someone at 4, but the problem is that your 2nd or 3rd choice, because I think depending on who does what at the combine, it won't matter. Because if Bryce Young looks really good, but C.J. Stroud doesn't, that's going to put more pressure on. You have to go get Bryce Young. C.J. Stroud is a level lower than him, so anybody that wants Bryce Young is going to have to go up and get him at the number 1 pick because you got the Houston Texans sitting there at 2.
Okay, what I'm saying is, if Young right now is seen as the very clear first pick.
Yes, without question.
Everybody and their brother knows that Houston's going to take a quarterback at number 2.
Mm-hmm.
If Young is seen as this can't-miss prospect that is head and shoulders above everybody else.
Which, height-wise, he isn't.
What's that?
I said height-wise, he isn't. Head
Correct,
and shoulders above.
That's right. But if he is seen as separated as the number 1 prospect, then right now that gives Chicago a ton of leverage. Once you go into the combine, if it is determined that not only is Young closer to the pack than expected, but that the separation in 2, 3, and 4 is negligible, then that necessitates, I believe, less teams' desire to have to vault in front of Houston, because they may say to themselves, hey, if Houston takes Young, that's cool, we'll take Stroud. Or if Houston takes Stroud, that's cool, we still end up with Young.
Mm-hmm. I think.
And Arizona, if they stay at 3, I don't think Arizona's going to take a quarterback.
No, Arizona, I believe, is sticking with Kyler Murray. They just signed him to a big, long extension. Jonathan Gannon said that he took the job because of Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray had some kind of role in the head coaching search to begin with. But no, I think that's fine if the Texans are going to take somebody. So whatever team, if you're the Colts, or if you're another team that's interested in moving up, and maybe guys don't show much differentiation, you can be like, okay, well, we can stay at 4. We can stay wherever we're at and try to get one of our guys. But you also have to assume that someone might get bold enough and likely will trade up with Chicago for 1. So then you're looking at, maybe you're not looking at Stroud or Levis. Maybe you are looking at Anthony Richardson then. Is that your 4th option? Are you okay with your 4th option possibly being your number 1 pick, your starting quarterback? I don't know. That's where you have to weigh the options, the risk reward. Are you willing to give up as much draft capital as it'll take to get up to number 1 to for sure get your guy, or are you comfortable possibly getting your 2nd, 3rd, or maybe even 4th choice if you're the Colts?
Did you watch the semifinal game between TCU and Michigan?
Yes.
The receiver for TCU, I got to look up his name, and I'm embarrassed to say that. I should have had it written down. I don't know where he slots, but like it looks like there's
Quentin Johnston. Quentin Johnston.
He's like 6'5", right?
Yeah.
There's going to be a run on receivers starting around 15 or so, right? And if you're the Colts, you've got them. So I'm looking at Quentin Johnson right here. He runs a 4.4 40. He's 21. Is he eligible this year?
He's a junior, so I believe so.
I mean, I'm looking at it right now.
I'm pretty sure he's declared.
He's listed as the number 1 receiver. Am I missing him on draft? Because I'm not seeing him go. And I'm like, if that's the kind of guy, my point being, if you can get a guy like that in the 2nd round, you got to hold on to that pick. I just.
Yeah, I'm looking at him on Tank. I don't see his name popping up on here.
Maybe he didn't come out. I don't know. I just, that kind of a player. My point being, if there have been drafts where receivers, there's been a run on them like right outside the top 5.
I see him. Yeah, they've got him going 12 to Houston.
Okay. Because the one that I'm looking at doesn't have him in the 1st round. And that's where I'm like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, he appears to be the top-rated wide receiver.
What I see is one of the Ohio State guys going to Houston. But the point being, if you're waiting until 12 to 15 for receivers to start coming off the board, there's going to be really good ones available in the 30s.
Yeah. Zay Flowers from Boston College.
And that's where I think Chris Ballard has to take a look at holding on to that spot.
That's the thing. Some of the compensation I'm seeing that they would have to give up for the Bears. I mean, I know it's just speculation and everything, but I mean, the one I saw was, they're giving up their 1st, 2nd, and 3rd picks this year, and then next year's first. Like,
see, I
with all the holes that the Colts have, that is pretty rich.
I would not give up next year's number 1. I think it's too important to hold on to.
Yeah. Again, you have to be comfortable, though, if you're the Colts, then, that whoever your top pick might be is likely going to go to Houston then.
This is a good point from Chiefs fan Steve. And by the way, Steve, I'm going to be in Kansas City tonight, so if you need anything from KC, you let me know. I'll bring it back for you. He says that the Colts can't take C.J. Stroud just because of their draft luck with Ohio State. I mean, that's true, man. Jack Mehort was a good player, but he had to retire a little bit early because of injury. Mike Doss was a decent player, and then he started firing guns in theaters or something, and they got rid of him. Malik Hooker couldn't stay healthy. Quinn Pitcock got addicted to video games. Roy Hall was all-world in the airport and then got on the field and couldn't play dead. I mean, it's on and on. Anthony Gonzalez is the guy I think one time that lined up wide to the outside and stood, and on the 2 count of the snap, just his knee buckled. He was done. I mean, it's unbelievable. The string of luck they've had or not had with Ohio State guys is really tough.
Paris Campbell at the moment, who has finally shown flashes. Yeah, took a while.
And I think he was a good player.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think he looked just fine.
It'll be interesting to see what they do. I mean, that is going to be all the speculation you hear next week at the Combine is who's going to trade up with Chicago, what's Chicago going to get in compensation, and then you're going to start hearing the wild speculation of can the Texans stay at 2? Are they going to move up to 1? Are the Colts going to leapfrog the Texans and move to 1? Are the Panthers going to be a dark horse? There's going to be all kinds of speculation.
If you're the Bears, if you're Chicago, you know, here's the other thing for Chicago at 1. I mean, do you really feel like there is an obvious non-quarterback number 1?
No, and that's why I think, I mean, obviously the speculation for that is that Jalen Carter or Will Anderson will be the top 2 defenders, and the Bears will get one of those guys, even if they move all the way down to 4 or even a little bit lower, they can get one of those guys, which I'd be totally fine with. But I don't think there's a dead set number 1. Whether it's Carter or Anderson, they seem to be kind of lockstep with each other.
Hey, Jake, in terms of Ohio State players with the Colts, don't forget about Art Schlichter.
Oh, boy.
You know, I did a radio interview with Art Schlichter once. And that poor guy, man, 15 years ago when I was working here, actually down on the 4th floor.
Uh-huh.
And Art Schlichter had gotten out of prison and was like a spokesperson. This was like during one of the 4-day stretches when he would get out. And he was
one of the 4-day stretches.
Oh, I mean, he would get out like on Tuesdays, and then like by Saturday, it's like Art Schlichter's been arrested. We had him on because he was heading up or starting up like a program for people with gambling problems, and he was like super cool. I mean, he really was engaging. He was really nice, really a great interview, and you just found yourself pulling for the guy. And I called, or later that day, I was with Robin Miller, who was not afraid to throw down a little bit on the ponies here and there. And I said to Robin, I said, yeah, Art Schlichter, like, you know, we had him on. He was pretty cool. And Robin said, buddy, let me tell you something. You need to go running and screaming the opposite direction. I go, what do you mean? He goes, there is no bigger scam artist in the history of scam artists than Art Schlichter. And I'm like, really? And he said, good guy. When he came here, I mean, you know, he's like, I'm not saying that, like, but he goes, but once he got into the gambling thing, I mean, he ran his family dry. His father committed suicide over it. He can't stay out of prison. And Robin said the latest is he was telling people that he would get them Super Bowl tickets, and like little old ladies were calling Robin, like, do you know Art Schlichter? Because he sold me Super Bowl tickets and I haven't gotten my tickets yet. And I wired him $2,000 or whatever. And literally 48 hours after I got off the phone with Robin, I look online and it's like, Art Schlichter's been arrested. And I think it was for the Super Bowl deal. And then the poor guy, I mean, he had gotten out, and I think he's back in again. It just that addiction that he had was absolutely gripping. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I don't know how good a player, you know, he was a very, very good player at Ohio State. A lot of people don't realize Art Schlichter, I think, is the one that threw the interception that Charlie Bauman intercepted for Clemson, where Woody Hayes punched Bauman in the throat. I'm pretty sure that was Art Schlichter as a freshman in the Gator Bowl that threw that, or a sophomore maybe. But he was a gifted player because he was athletic, kind of ahead of his time. But as soon as he got here and that got a hold of him, man, it was ugly, ugly stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I look at it, and again, Arizona to me, that's kind of the fact that Arizona is drafting just ahead of Indianapolis. You got to wonder if Arizona. We talk so much, Mark, about Chicago trading out. Does Arizona trade out? Because Arizona, if Arizona's looking at it and they're like, okay, we don't need, now they do need an edge rusher because obviously, you know, Watt retires, right? I mean, Will Anderson is an elite level pass rusher out of Alabama, But does Arizona look at him and say that we got to get that guy, or we're going to parlay that into 3 different picks to allow someone like, say, for example, and don't rule this out. What coach would love most to slap at the Colts?
Slap at them?
What coach would most like
Frank
to
Reich.
get revenge on the Colts?
Carolina Panthers.
What team, aside from the Colts, has the biggest necessity at the quarterback position?
The Carolina Panthers.
How about Carolina moves up to 3 in front of Indianapolis, or Carolina moves up to 1 in front of Indianapolis, not only to get their guy and rid themselves of the Sam Darnold, but they say, we have a quarterback whisperer in Frank Reich. We're going to groom a young quarterback under him.
Yep. Not out of the realm of possibility. Another dark horse is the Seattle Seahawks at 5. They could use a quarterback as well. So we'll get into more Colts talk after that. We also have Don Fischer coming up at the top of the hour. Talk a little IU side of things as they head into their matchup against Purdue on Saturday. It's Kevin and Query, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Mom, Dad, Sis?
Here we go again.
Why are you in a suit? Picture, if you will, a world with the best network imaginable. I'm talking about the Xfinity 10G network. Go on. Mom, remember how your reality shows wouldn't load with all of us online? Now you can binge. And Susie, we'll have fast internet in the basement.
Nice.
If you have any questions, here's my card.
This is just your name on a gum wrapper.
Introducing the 10G network only from Xfinity. The future starts now. Now through March 21st, new customers can get 200 megabit Xfinity internet during our limited time Xfinity 10G network launch celebration for just $25 a month for 2 years. Plus, there's no annual contract required and you get Wi-Fi equipment included. Go to Xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply to internet service and devices. Actual speeds vary.
Indy, finally springtime, and if you hate to paint, do what your neighbor Edwina did. She called Rhino Shield.
Over the years, I had to touch up the house. I just got to the point where I couldn't spend any more money on the outside of the house. And when I saw Rhino Shield, I thought that was the answer to my problem.
Rhino Shield's not paint, it's better.
I'd had painters here before, and it was usually quite a disaster with them leaving their equipment here and picking up things in the yard. But Rhino Shield was right on it.
Indy, now get the guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield for 15% off the regular price.
The gentleman said, if you're interested, give me a call. And I said, honestly, can you come tomorrow?
Here's Rhino Shield's Shane Smith.
This offer is limited, so call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint.
Don't vinyl. Go Rhino.
Don't paint, don't vinyl. Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Okay, Julie, have you made your decision?
Oh, wow, I have. This was a tough choice. I had such a great time with Brad, but I am gonna have to pick Geico.
Interesting.
Geico is just, sorry, I'm getting emotional, been by my side, for so long with great customer service.
I thought we had something, Julie.
I'm sorry, Brad. Geico is just always there for me whenever I need them.
It's an insurance company.
No, it's an insurance partner, Brad.
For the choice you can always rely on, go to geico.com.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone, America's #1 brakes destination. We have the pads, rotors, drums, shoes, and brake fluids to improve your stopping power. Right now, save 15% when you get any 2 Duralast rotors with a set of Duralast brake pads. Missing a tool? Ask about our free Loan-A-Tool program and borrow the tools you need to get the job done.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Claim based on data from the MPD Group 2021. Deposit required for Loan-A-Tool.
Rattle, rattle, thunder, clatter, boom, boom, boom.
Finished our taxes. We're going to get some major bucks back.
Great. Just in time to get the car ready for spring break.
Yep. Perfect timing. It's not handling right.
Get it to CarX. We can fix it now and then pay off the credit card when the refund comes in.
Brilliant. I knew there was a reason I married you.
CarX is the best in auto repair. They guarantee every part and every repair. Plus, they guarantee the best price in town. So when you need brakes, service, or tires,
don't worry, call the CarX man.
JMV here with an exclusive scoop on how you can attend the NFL Combine for free. Get inside Lucas Oil Stadium to see future NFL stars up close. At the Combine Experience, you can pass, punt, and run. To attend for free, March 2nd through the 5th, just go to visitindy.com/combine to sign up for free tickets and parking. The NFL Combine up close with the best college football has to offer, March the 2nd through the 5th. Get your free tickets at visitindy.com/combine. See you there.
Are your ankylosing spondylitis or AS symptoms still not under control?
Stairs? No way.
Is your treatment still not working?
Mornings? Moving? No.
Tired of saying no? Talk to your rheumatologist about a different treatment option. Visit confrontas.com, and next time, you may just say,
Why, yes, I will go for that run.
Visit confrontas.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Soccer Saturday featuring Indy 11. If this is your football, this is your show. Saturday at 9 on The Fan. It's Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Sam Fritz itching me where I scratch with my Foo Fighters love. Thank you very much.
Itching me where I scratch.
Yep. That's not an HR meeting
I'm
at
just,
all.
Actually, I'm just scratching where you scratch, and I'm like, sure, all right, I will also scratch there.
Which way did you say that?
Itching me where I scratch.
No, you
scratching me where I itch.
Yes,
I guess that's what it was. Whatever. Yeah. It's Foo Fighters.
Neither of those are the correct saying.
Doesn't matter. We'll go to HR meeting later. It's fine.
It's scratching my itch, but he still said scratching me where I itch.
Well, you're quoting Kramer, right, from Seinfeld?
Who? I've never seen that show.
Yeah. Frank, I got to tell you, you're scratching me where I itch.
Yeah. One of my favorite episodes was on the other day where he gets the screen door and he turns into Small Town USA.
I thought the screen door one was good, but it went a little far. Like, it was funny at first, and then once the kids were hitting it with the silly string, it was
come on. That's the best part.
I know, but it was a little ridiculous.
The kids in the
one of my favorite episodes is when the episode where, and nothing is better on morning radio than 35-year-old television show talk, but the episode where Kramer helps out with the old movie theater.
Uh-huh.
And Mr. Horowitz leaves his glasses. Mm-hmm. Jerry has to put them on because what's his name? Lloyd Braun thinks he's crazy.
Yeah.
And they go and buy the gum. It's great.
There's a lot of good ones.
Elaine,
Yeah.
The later years of Elaine, man. That's one thing you and I absolutely have in common. Is that's a common thought, though, isn't it? That Julie Louis-Dreyfus at the end of Seinfeld was really good looking.
Yeah.
That's a common sentiment.
I think so. I don't think we're in the minority there.
It's the attitude, though. That's what makes it, right? It's the attitude.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It's like Damone says with the attitude.
That's right. That's exactly right. We got Don Fischer, voice of the Hoosiers. We'll ask his thoughts on Julia Louis-Dreyfus as well.
Well, we probably want to ask him that.
You sure? You don't want to?
Well,
you want to lead in with? Ask him some XFL thoughts, too? Do you like the Battle Hawks jerseys?
Let me ask you this. Do you know Don Fischer's favorite baseball team?
I do not.
Do you know his favorite baseball player?
I do not. I'm going to say
Sam,
Atlanta Braves.
Favorite baseball team is the Marlins.
Is that your guess?
I'm seeing this going down the joke route, so yes, my guess is the Marlins.
It's incorrect.
I'm going to say the Braves.
Braves?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hank Aaron, favorite player.
Okay. That's your guess?
Mm-hmm.
I've mentioned it on this program before, so it's almost like a quiz.
Oh.
It's like a midterm exam, which I took yesterday.
How'd that go?
Not bad. 3 questions are written out answers, and they have yet to be graded, so I'm not sure. But hoping to maintain my 97.6% that I have in the class.
Look at
Thank you for asking.
You get a free pizza at Pizza Hut, I think.
And then I'm done, just so everybody knows. And by the way, there are 700,000 Hoosiers who were like me that have college credits sitting out there and felt like they expired. They don't. You can still finish your degree, which in about 6 weeks I will be doing exactly that. Spaced it out so that I would do this over a 1-year deal, even though it was not that many classes that I had to take. But that algebra one was a doozy, buddy. Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, next.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Your home for indie sports. Now with even more ways to listen.
Listen on air.
Online at 1075thefan.com.
And on our free app.
Stay connected to all things indie sports, including the latest news, show blogs, and catch up on what you've missed with our podcast.
We're never more than just a click away.
Download our app at Google Play and on the App Store. From your home for indie sports.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Sometimes an injury or death happens due to someone else's mistake. Find justice with the injury attorneys at Parr Ritchie at 317-269-2509. PARRinjury.com.
Imagine the possibilities of getting the backyard of your dreams. Expand your living space with an Indy Decorative Concrete patio. Indy Decorative Concrete, the patio experts.
Hello, this is Joe Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is a firm that practices family law exclusively. We focus on only one area of the law to maximize our strength and effectiveness as advocates for clients that have everything on the line: their homes, retirement, savings, and most importantly, their children. We're the partner our clients count on. If we can be of help to you, give us a call.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Indianapolis area attorneys. 101 West Ohio Street, Suite 1250, Indianapolis, Indiana 46204.
I switched to Boost Mobile and got a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone. Want to know the best part?
It was free?
Nope.
The fact that it's on America's largest 5G networks?
Nope. It's the ding.
Oh yeah, love the ding.
Right? It's all about the ding. It's the dingarooski, the dingaroner, the ring-a-ding-ding.
Unleash your power to save with Boost. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone when you switch. Boost Mobile. Unleash your power.
And the ding.
Limited time offer. New customers only. Available on select networks. 5G not available everywhere. One device per line. Tax excluded. Additional restrictions apply. See your local Boost Mobile store for details.
Indy's number one for new country.
I got some famous friends.
Nobody plays more new country. 97.1 Hank FM. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
WIBC HD2 W298BB. WIBC HD3 W228CX Indianapolis.
The IHSAA Girls Basketball State Finals. Tomorrow morning at 11 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
9 o'clock hour is underway in Indianapolis. For that matter, the 9 o'clock hour is underway everywhere in the Eastern time zone. My name is Jake Query, Mark Dykton in for Kevin Bowen, Sam Fritz on the big board. Tomorrow night at 7:30, you can hear Indiana and Purdue on our sister station. That, of course, being 93 WIBC. And the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, joins us now on the Payless Liquors hotline to talk about that and more. Don, before we get to the game, I'm going to incorporate my favorite Don Fischer trivia question, which I have only mentioned to you 346 times. But I'll begin by asking you this question. Have you ever seen the late 80s movie Grand Canyon, which featured Kevin Kline and Danny Glover? Does that ring a bell in any way, shape, or form?
No.
Okay. Which is not surprising. I mean, it wasn't like a huge hit movie, but in the movie, Kevin Kline's son's name is Roberto, because the character, Kevin Kline's character, is a diehard Pittsburgh Pirate fan, and Roberto Clemente was his favorite player in his childhood. And I've always found this fascinating about you. Am I correct in saying, as I have pointed out before, you share that sentiment? The Pirates were your favorite team as a kid, correct?
They were absolutely my favorite team because I saw them when I was 10 years old. I saw them play with the rest of our Little League program that went to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, to see the Pirates play the Braves. That's when the Atlanta Braves were still there in Milwaukee, which tells you how old I am. And I saw Roberto go 3 for 5 at the plate. He scored from first base on a double. He threw a guy out at the plate with a shot. That right arm of his was maybe as good arm as it's ever been in right field. And he threw the ball about 15 feet above the ground and hit the catcher in the glove, and he didn't move his glove as the guy slid into home plate and threw him out. It was just the most remarkable play I think I've ever seen. Of course, I was 10 years old, so it probably balloons in my mind in that way. But, no, I became a Pirate fan when I was 10, and I've been a Pirate fan ever since, although in recent years, my fandom has waned.
Yeah, I was going to say it's been a little rough, but I think, Don, and this is what I think for IU basketball is so special to so many people, is that a large part of sports is the nostalgia of being reawakened of that magic of your childhood, right? Of seeing plays and players that mean something to you and wanting so badly to be able to watch that again. That's like 90% of sports to me, right?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, what you grew up as a kid listening to or watching or seeing in person, what you did from a playing perspective, just playing out there on the sandlot, so to speak, and playing 2 against 2 in a baseball game, because I did that as a kid. All of those kinds of things play into your thinking process and play into what you really value from a nostalgia standpoint. And there's no doubt in my mind that's why I became a Pirate fan. That's why I followed them for all these years, even though, like I say, I don't follow them nearly as close as I used to, because they don't spend any money, and they trade everybody away that makes any money. Therefore, I'm not as big a Pirate fan as I used to be.
You realize, wait a minute, if they're not going to invest in this, why should I, right? That's also part of sports. Hey, let's talk about this. And this is a really, maybe this is going to sound like a dumb question, Don, which I know will shock you. But with Indiana, Trace Jackson Davis is putting together, what he is doing is remarkable in terms of his all-around statistical contribution to Indiana at this point. But you always do need help. And Xavier Johnson, if he is going to come back, does Indiana start to run the risk of it being kind of too late to reacclimate him? Or can they just kind of plug him in, and if he is healthy, everything just picks up where it left off?
Well, that's what I'm hoping for, obviously, the latter. There's no question that X has been missing for some time now, obviously since the Kansas game, which means that happened back in mid-December. This guy is such a special player in the sense of what he can do defensively. Obviously, he's a really good point guard. He has his moments where he's not what everybody wants to see out there because he gets a little carried away or goes a little too hard and maybe tries to make too many things happen. But what he does defensively for this team, I think, is the missing piece that they've had problems with ever since. And I'm talking about a guy who can guard the toughest guy on the other team from a quickness and athletic standpoint because of his toughness and his ability to move. And the question is, when he comes back, will he be that same guy? That's number one. And then number two, if he's not the same guy, then what do you do? So from a coaching perspective, I think Mike Woodson is going to try to play this thing as best he can under the circumstances with the injury, how well he's going to be when he does come back, and then how do you insert him back in the lineup as a starter, as a guy coming off the bench? There's so many questions to be answered. I do believe that X will be back, and I think he'll be back maybe next week. I don't think he'll be back for this game against Purdue, perhaps Iowa. Hopefully, if not Iowa, then certainly for the closer against Michigan in the regular season, because I think he needs to get a game or two under his belt before he starts playing in the Big Ten tournament, which would, if he gets back to any kind of normalcy, I think he can really help this basketball team.
Voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, joining us on Kevin and Query this morning. Don, obviously an emotional evening in Michigan State the other night in the game. Trace Jackson Davis had a bit of an off night, 7 turnovers in the game. Just an off night, or is that because logging some heavy minutes is starting to catch up?
Well, I mean, that's all possible. I mean, there's no question Michigan State had a different perspective on how to guard him in this ball game than they did the first time. I think Indiana made some adjustments. Nothing in this ball game seemed to work to get this team off the schneid, so to speak. I wasn't surprised that it would be very emotional for Michigan State, and I certainly thought that this would be a very difficult challenge to beat them at Michigan State in the first game back from the travesty that took place a week before. So, and I think that's part of what happened in this ball game. But Indiana continues to struggle at times with not having enough. Didn't play times during the ball game because certainly they got off to a great start. But then it kind of all fell apart, and they couldn't put it back together again. And that's been a problem with this team on occasion this year. They have problems after they get going well to maintain that consistency in a ball game. Other times they've been really good, and primarily the times that they haven't is gone. a big concern at this juncture of the season.
Don, when you look at, when we get into the time of year, Don Fischer, the voice of the Hoosiers, is our guest on the Payless Liquors Hotline. When you start looking towards, and I know we still have Big Ten tournament to play and games to play, but we've seen enough body of work now. Is Indiana a situational team? And by that I mean, are there certain teams that you look at and you say, in the right situation, they can win that game? Or is there a definitive blueprint of opponent that when you see it, you go, oh boy, they're in trouble because that's what they can't necessarily battle against? Is there any one style of team that you could definitively say is Indiana's true kryptonite?
I don't know. I haven't thought about it in that context, but at this juncture, I think most of it's because Indiana hasn't done what they need to do. And I don't think it's because of what the other team has done. I think Mike Woodson, the one thing about him as a coach that I think is really good is he's seen just about everything. And he obviously game plans based on what he's seen from film and those kinds of things. So I'm not concerned about his game planning or anything like that. I think that the big question mark is consistency with players. And that's the one thing that I don't think we've seen enough of this year. Trace has been the one constant you can go out there and lay money on the fact that he's going to have a good ball game. I mean, you're talking about the game against Michigan State where he didn't have nearly the game that he's had previously. He had 19 points and 7 rebounds. Generally speaking, that's a pretty good night's work for a big man inside. In Trace's case, he's carried this team at this point. And that's the one thing. I mean, Hood-Schifino is really a good guard. He's really become a good player, but he's turning the ball over a few too many times. And I just think getting X back would really help this ball club from a defensive standpoint. And I think those two things, the consistency of the role players, so to speak, that number one, and then number two, I think the defensive problems they've had, a lot of it's due to the fact that they don't have a guard like X who can guard the quickest, fastest, toughest guy in the other team. And if you look at the games that Indiana's lost this year, oftentimes it's because that one guy that they couldn't guard consistently. Bowie kid, the young kid from Maryland, those guys had a really kind of their way with Indiana in those matchups, and they were the reasons that Indiana couldn't win those games.
Don, speaking of consistency, I wanted to ask you about this because you obviously are watching literally every set of a game. That's what happens when you're the play-by-play guy. Do games get officiated in the Big Ten consistently? Do you have a pretty good idea from one game to the next what is allowed and what is not, and what is tolerated and what is not?
I've said this for many years now. I don't think there is enough consistency in the way games are called. And that's from game to game, it changes. It depends on who the officials are. And even with the same officials, you'll see them officiate the game differently from half to half, for heaven's sakes. I know it's one of the hardest games in the world to referee or to be an official for because of the athleticism that's involved, all those kinds of things. And you see it in the NBA too. They're nice when you look at a couple of plays, and the next thing you know, it's officiated totally differently down the floor by another official. There's just not enough consistency in that standpoint. But you can't really blame officials. The game is so fast, it's so quick. The replays I hate. I've always hated the replay aspect of it. I think it takes away from the momentum of the game. And I think if the official makes a mistake, he makes a mistake. That's just the way it should be. I think down at the end of ball games, that might be the only time I would look at and review a play. But not today. They disrupt the ball game, even if it's in the first 10 minutes of the contest, to look at something. So I think it's, at this point, I think it's just a tough game to officiate, and I don't think there's enough good officials. We certainly don't see enough good officials in the Big Ten, that's for sure.
He's the great Don Fischer joining us on the Payless Liquors Hotline on Kevin and Query this Friday morning. Don, 14-1 at home, 4-7 on the road. The Hoosiers averaging 11 points fewer per game on the road, and their three-point percentage takes a dip. Why are they struggling on the road?
Well, I don't know. I'm not a coach. I can't really tell you. I just think it's a different mindset. The one reason that I think that Indiana was great on the road or at home when Bob Knight was the coach is that he put no emphasis on the fact that it was going to be a tougher game when they got on the road, or it was tougher to win on the road. He said the baskets are the same height, the floor is the same size. We're not going to worry about where we're playing. The difference now is that these kids all revolve around the crowd noise and all those kinds of things. To me, it seems like there's just more emphasis on the fact that, whoa, we're going on the road. It's going to be a tougher matchup. And Bob Knight never looked at it that way, and he got his players to think that it wasn't going to be a different kind of ball game. That's why they were so successful in those years. And at this point in the season, I don't think you can change that mindset. So we're going on the road to Purdue on Saturday. We'll see what we're going to see. But Indiana has won a few ball games on the road this year in Big Ten play, and they've been important games. So we'll see if Indiana can pull it out this Saturday.
Don, for you, which is a greater sentiment? Kind of the joy or the pride for him and seeing Mike Davis's son become the second all-time leading scorer in NCAA history, or the feeling of being really old that the really cute kid that Mike Davis was carrying around at the Final Four is now the second all-time leading scorer in NCAA history?
Well,
it's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy. And Antoine he just had a remarkable career playing mostly for his dad, and there's no question that Mike is so proud of him, and he should be. I mean, this kid has been phenomenal. And when you consider that he plays in a league, it's not the upper echelon league or anything like that. But this kid's had people guarding him 2 and 3 abreast at times through his career and still has been able to accomplish what he's been able to accomplish. And I just think it's remarkable. I'm so proud of Antoine and what he's been able to do. And, of course, Mike and I have been close friends for years, and I don't think there's a finer person in college basketball than Mike Davis.
Don, in terms of the game tomorrow night, Don Fischer is our guest on the Payless Circus Hotline. Getting back to that, one of the real fun things for me is this is the way it should be. 2 ranked teams between Indiana and Purdue. You know, at this point, I think Purdue's got a pretty strong hold on the regular season in the Big Ten. And now perhaps the fun thing comes down to the National Player of the Year with Trace Jackson Davis and Zach Edey. Both of them have just been wonderful players this year. We know now that Jackson Davis, this is going to be his last year in Bloomington. Did you think that there was a chance Trace Jackson Davis would come back?
This year? After this year?
Yeah.
No. I'm not surprised. I mean, honestly, I was surprised he came back last year. I think for the last couple of years we thought he really believes that he can play in the NBA, and I think he can. But the question is, can he shoot it in the NBA? And if he can't, the career is not going to be all that long because his athleticism is terrific. He can play the 4. He can do the things that you ask of a player from a defensive standpoint because of his athleticism, his quickness, his ability to guard people. But you've got to be able to shoot the basketball at the NBA level. And I just don't know. At 6'9", he's got all the tools to be a really good player in the NBA, but the lack of the shooting touch at this point and the lack of showing that is going to hurt him. We know that. We know what the mock drafts say, all those kinds of things. I'm not going to be surprised at all if he doesn't come back because I don't think he really wants to. I think he wants to get on with his life, whether it's in the NBA or elsewhere.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, I know that he has said, hey, this is it for sure. I'm going to go through senior day. Don, I'm going to sound a little ridiculous here. I did think there was the chance, just based on NIL and other things, that he would explore it because of what you talked about. And maybe, to be honest with you, Don, this is not a knock on Trace Jackson Davis at all. If he were to if in fact, which we know now he's not, but if he were to come back next year, then the worry becomes, is he only coming back to showcase what he wants NBA scouts to see of him, and then does that come at the detriment? I've seen that other places, right, where guys have kind of been working harder on their NBA craft than helping out their college team, and he hasn't done that. He's been a remarkable player for Indiana.
No, there's no question. You're exactly right. I mean, if you want an example of the guy that's thought about his stock in the NBA and how important it was and how he changed his game, look at Thomas Bryant when he played for Tom Crean.
Yeah.
I mean, they needed him inside more than anything else, and he wanted to be outside.
Boy, he hung a lot of time on that three-point line, didn't he?
Exactly. That's my point. So, no, Trace Jackson Davis has been about the team his whole career at Indiana. That's one of the things I like most about him. More than that, though, he is still just a great young man and a terrific person. Whatever he's going to do in his life and whatever comes along for him, he'll be great at it. There's no question in my mind.
Don, question for you about next fall. Jalen Hood-Schifino, Trace Jackson-Davis, Miller Kopp, likely all leaving. What does this team look like when we get back together in the fall with the basketball team? What's Mike Woodson's roster going to look like? Who's going to be the starting five?
Transfer portal, right?
I know.
Yeah, exactly. There's no question. They've got two commits right now. Obviously, they've got a lot more spots that they could fill, and you don't know who's going to leave at this point. What it's going to look like in the fall, I can't even begin to guess, because obviously there could be a lot of things transpire here in the summertime or through the portal aspect of things. And NIL means a lot in these days, too, in regard to who you can get and what you can pay them. It just makes me sick to say that. But nevertheless, I think next fall is going to be totally up in the air for a long time here to come.
Don, tomorrow night, on Saturday night, when you are making the call from Mackey Arena, Shannon and I are going to Lawrence, Kansas to go see Kansas play tomorrow afternoon, and we will be in the car almost perfectly timed to listen to the entire call tomorrow night from Mackey Arena. So we look forward to it, and hopefully it should be a great game for you to call. It's going to be a great atmosphere.
Well, there's no question about that. Mackey's a special place to play, just like Assembly Hall is. You can say this about Indiana. You got two of the greatest places to watch college basketball, and you got one of the greatest places to watch the NBA in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. It's just three phenomenal facilities.
No doubt about it. Don, enjoy it tomorrow night, and we look forward to listening to the call.
Thanks. Appreciate it, guys.
Don Fischer on the Payless Stickers Hotline, Indiana and Purdue, tomorrow night, 7:30. You can hear it again over on our sister station at 93 WIBC. Time for a morning checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Ball State Basketball. Get your tickets at ballstatesports.com on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Don't forget, it's also Freebie Friday on the Pop Quiz, so we got that coming up next as well. So get a free Jiffy Lube oil change. What?
Nice.
What? What'd you say?
Sure, you got that going for you.
This is nice. Yeah. Oh, that's surprising. You did a Bill Murray quote because you don't care for that man, unfortunately.
I think he's kind of a no talent, yeah.
He's kind of really good no talent.
He was really good in Zombieland.
Yeah, that would tell me that you're not a fan.
I thought he was funny in Zombieland. Boy.
Bill Murray made my childhood.
I just think the shtick of him showing up at golf tournaments and jumping in the water and like being at Cubs games, I get it, right? It's just after a while, it's like, okay. But I will say this for Bill Murray.
The man made Ghostbusters.
I will say this for Bill Murray.
Bob, Stripes, Caddyshack? Come on now.
This is the one thing I'll say for Bill Murray. He seems like a super dude. He seems like a guy that if you walked up to him at a Cubs game, he would just be like, hey, man, what's going on? I will give him that he seems incredibly kind.
Would you tell him to his face he's a no talent? Yep. You're a nice guy. Kind of a no talent, though, in my book. I'm Jake Query, by the way. Oh, boy. All right, let's transition.
I host the 17th most popular mid-market radio show on the
transition out of the Bill Murray slander from Pacers on the wrong end of a 142-138 overtime loss to the Boston Celtics last night. That was a hell of a game. Jason Tatum, 31 points, 12 rebounds. Jaylen Brown, 30 points, 11 rebounds. Miles Turner just going off, 40 points, 10 rebounds, career high in three-point hits. Man, that was a great game. Probably, like I said, it was a loss, but it was probably my favorite Pacers game of the season to watch because that was just back and forth down the stretch.
Turner, as you talked about, a career high with 40. They had said at the beginning of the year they wanted to see him kind of do what Don Fischer was talking about that Thomas Bryant did at Indiana, hang around that three-point line a little bit and utilize it coming off of Tyrese Halliburton, getting him open looks. 8 of 10 from three-point range. Miles Turner on his shooting last night.
Man, I just think just being aggressive. I think the threes were presented itself the most tonight, and I was just making the most of my opportunities. And my guys were getting me the balls in the right spot. And fortunately for me, it was a great shooting night.
Pacers now embark on a 4-game road trip that starts Saturday night at Orlando.
Embark is an underrated word, isn't it? You don't hear people say embark a lot.
Yeah. It's in kind of my name is in there. Embark, Mark, a little bit.
But they use a K.
I know. That's the problem. We're going to bring it up in that.
How did you end up with just the C in Mark?
I don't know. I have to ask Todd and Debbie Dykton. I don't know.
Is it Marcus?
No. People ask that all the time, too. No, just Mark.
People ask me all the time if it's Jacob.
Yeah?
And I'm like, no. Jake's not even my real name. I'm not saying my real name, but Jake is not my real name.
Yeah. Well, Mark is my real name. Marcus is not my name at all. So elsewhere in the NBA.
What's your middle initial?
Steven. It's S. Mark Steven. So that also throws people because they see Mark and then they see the S. So they think oh, you forgot to put the U there. I'm like, no. Just Mark S, not Marcus.
Okay.
There's some errors there that can cause some confusion. And in Dykton, that's a whole other situation.
You're not in there.
Nuggets, Magic, Sixers, Raptors, Mavericks, Jazz, Lakers, and Kings all winners in the NBA last night.
Did you already mention the college scoreboard?
No, we didn't. We were
Stan,
talking
do we
NBA.
have the swoosh?
Swoosh.
IUPUI last night over Robert Morris, 81-75, and then the joke we've been using, and I'll use it again next year when they play him. Robert Morris actually brought more than just Robert. So they beat all 5 guys.
You've said that joke like 10 times.
It never gets old.
We're even in break, and you're, hey, did you hear that one about Robert Morris?
I just said
8 times.
I will use it again. And I went to college with a guy named Robert Morris that said, I own a trucking company. That radio thing doesn't pay very well. You want to do something in the afternoons?
Sign me up. I want to drink a 90-gallon coffee.
I would love to be an over-the-road trucker, though. Have the little sleeper cab.
Yeah.
Hang out at truck stops, take showers.
I guarantee you have some trucker hats at home that you just wear, and you're like, one day I'll be on a big rig.
Totally. Milwaukee over Purdue Fort Wayne 95-94, and Tennessee Tech 82-79 winners over Southern
Sorry,
Indiana.
Shannon can't stop. Got to haul ass to Montreal.
Got
to bring these ketchup chips.
I know people now that are doing the Amazon Sprinter stuff, and you call them, and they're like, I've got 9 hours to El Paso. Okay.
Oh, boy. Colts, Bubba Ventrone headed to Cleveland to be their special teams coordinator. Shane Steichen going to be looking for a special teams coordinator for the Colts, and he also has to get an offensive line coach because Chris Strausser left for Houston, so he's got a couple of moves to make. We'll see if after the weekend, heading into the Combine, they've made those moves official because the Combine starting Wednesday.
We will be, Mark, doing the show from the Combine on what days next week?
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week.
I think Ryan Grigson's going to come by and join us and talk about just from a general manager standpoint, like what are they looking for at the Combine?
Nothing is confirmed yet. We're also hoping to get Shane Steichen in person at the Combine as well. And then I can guarantee you for a fact, Tuesday, we're going to be talking to North Turner, who has a big role in Shane Steichen.
For a fact?
For
Tuesday?
a fact.
I thought you said for Fat Tuesday. That was last Tuesday.
No. For a fact. F-A-C-T.
Okay.
North Turner going to join us at 9 o'clock, talk about Shane Steichen and the impact he had on his coaching career.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Freebie Friday, right?
Freebie Friday. Jiffy
So
Lube
that
oil
means
change
you
on the
are
line.
guaranteed to win. We do have the pop quiz, though. We will ask you the questions, but you're going to get the oil change regardless.
Yep.
All right. And we're doing that next?
We are doing that next. 317-239-1070.
Dan Dockage for Affinity Whole Health, the leader in testosterone therapy. They've got me on a testosterone program. Got to tell you, I feel amazing. Get started at feelgreatindy.com. That's feelgreatindy.com.
Guys, solve your ED today with an intimacy guarantee. Only at the Indianapolis Men's Clinic. If you don't perform, you don't pay. Call the Indianapolis Men's Clinic at 999-9000. 999-9000.
To my newborn baby boy, the day you arrived was one of the happiest days of my life. Right up there with the day I bought my RV from that guy on the internet and insured it with Progressive. What a deal. Just know, son, I'll always be here for you. And by here, I mean in the middle of absolutely nowhere. In my RV.
Protect your baby with an RV policy from Progressive. Take as little as 4 minutes to see what you could save at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
I'm Martin Hoke, the inventor of Navage Nasal Care, and I love Navage. I've told you about how your nose is the body's air filter, that Navage's powered suction will help flush out allergens, viruses, mucus, and germs, and that Navage will help you breathe better. But what do other people say about Navage? Like Tara, quote, "My doctor wanted me to do saline rinses for my allergies, but I've never been able to successfully use a neti pot. Navage uses suction power, so it's foolproof. There are nights when I'll have particularly bothersome allergies. I'll bust it out, and the results are immediate. It's such a relief. It's become a lifesaver." Unquote. She's one of over 100,000 online reviews praising Navage, the all-natural solution trusted by over 3 million people to help you breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier without drugs. Navage is available at Walmart, CVS, Walgreens, Target, Rite Aid, and online. Navage, N-A-V-A-G-E, clean nose, healthy life.
Window Nation has the coolest deal ever for keeping you warm. Get 2 windows free with every 2 you buy with 0 down payment, 0 monthly payments, and pay 0 interest for 24 months. Now is the perfect time to take advantage of Window Nation's deep discounts, all while reinvesting in your biggest asset. Not to mention the savings on your energy bills for years to come. Up to 43% of your home utility bill goes to heating and cooling. With new Window Nation windows, you can cut those energy bills during these cold winter months by keeping your hot air in and the cold air outside. Go with the window company that has installed over 1 million windows in over 150,000 homes, all with 96% customer satisfaction. Now's the time to upgrade the look and feel of your home, all while saving thousands on your energy bills. Call 866-90NATION and get 2 windows free with every 2 you buy with no limit, plus make no down payment, no payments, and pay no interest for 24 months. This offer won't last long. Call Window Nation today, 866-90NATION, or go to windownation.com. Tell them Kevin Bowen sent you.
Indianapolis is the heart of college basketball, and every March, the home of the Horizon League men's and women's basketball championships. 4 men's teams and 4 women's teams look to reach the horizon and punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum. Semifinal action takes place Monday, March the 6th, and the Horizon League champions are crowned on Tuesday, March the 7th. Visit horizonleague.com/Indy for more information and to score your tickets today. Once again, that's horizonleague.com/Indy.
The Ride with JMV.
The new head coach of the Colts, Shane Steichen, joins us. I'm assuming nobody's really going to outwork you in terms of preparation for anything here.
You know, the separation's in the preparation. Every day we come into work, you're on a job interview, and coaches, players, the whole building's got to be locked in at all times, and we got to have a vision for what this thing needs to look like and carry out that vision every single day and be consistent with our message.
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 to 6
on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. Have you studied? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with Kevin and Query. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
You know, yesterday was kind of a redemption story on the Pop Quiz because Jeff, who first when he called in, he said he knew people related to me, and then he called in and said he's related to people related to me, which, unless it's from a different side of the family, would mean I'm related to him, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Jeff didn't fare as well the first time that he did it. I gave a lot of hints, and he didn't seem to grasp them.
Yeah.
Did much better yesterday. I think he was 4 for 5.
Maybe it was like the Query thing where like you fail the first time, the second time you start to do really good.
Very well. I got news for you. This is my second time working within this radio cluster, and that doesn't adhere to what you're saying, right?
That was a shot at me, I think.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying hopefully this time around is going better than the first time, although I think I've already exceeded the length of tenure of my first cup of coffee.
See? Better the second time. There you go.
That's right. Now algebra was actually, I looked at my transcript. I think I withdrew from algebra 5 times.
Yeah, that sounds about like me. I'm terrible at math. You could pay me to take math again. I wouldn't like it, but you could pay me to do it.
It's rough, man.
It's not fun.
It's tough.
I'm not looking forward to my daughters getting older, and then they're like, Daddy, how do you do this math? Like, the hell if I know.
Do you know that one of the classes, one of the formulas that I was doing in my last module, my tutor said to me, because I'm like, I'm like embarrassed at how bad I am.
Mm-hmm.
And she said to me, well, Jake, you can't feel totally terrible because this form or this style of math that you're being asked to do here was not taught 30 years ago.
Right. That's the thing. Math changes.
Like,
yeah. You have to do it this way. Like, what? It can also be this way? Yeah, but you have to show your work this way. It's like, oh, boy.
I don't understand. Like, if the goal is to get from here to Atlanta, it doesn't really matter which way you take, right?
Right.
So long as you have to get there by a certain time, whatever route you decide to take that's up to you, right?
I always thought like
just
math,
as long as you get to the end.
Like, yeah. And math courses, I'm like, could you have taught me how to do like taxes or like stuff like that, or write a check or something a little more? Like,
well,
instead of figure out this geometry or whatever that I'm never
going to
use.
It's funny you mention that. My buddy Mac Engel is in town, and we were just talking yesterday about the fact that I have always said, Mark, when I was at North Central High School in my senior year to graduate, you had to take 1 semester of economics and 1 semester of government. Both are important, don't get me wrong. But I have always felt, and when I become mayor, this is going to be the case, even though politicians can't necessarily dictate school curriculum, at least typically, they should have a class in all schools called Life 101, where you learn what a credit score is, you learn what a credit card is, you learn what mortgage rates mean, you learn what property taxes are, you learn about income tax, all of that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't realize a ton of that stuff.
Yeah.
Myself included when you come out of school.
Yeah. Like, what do I need to know Euler circuits for? Tell me how to do these taxes. So I have to keep paying people to do them. All right, anyway, let's get the math talk out of here before we drop to like 29th in the rankings.
That's right.
It's a pop quiz, freebie Friday, 239-1070. 1 through 8, Jake, pick a number. More math for you.
Indiana and Purdue tomorrow will be playing their second game of the year, so I will go with number 2.
Sam, who do we got?
That's going to be Mick.
Mick, what's up, man?
Hey, what's going on?
How's it going this morning?
Mick, you sound like a fun fella. Have you called the program before?
I've called many a times, but I've never got through.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fun. If you don't mind me asking, Mick, is Mick your given name? Is that a nickname? Is that a shortened name?
No, it's actually Nick, N-I-C-K.
Oh.
Nick, like short for Nicholas. Okay.
Come on,
Sorry about
Sam.
That.
No,
Sorry
I
about
asked
that,
for
Nick.
clarification. I heard Mick twice.
Okay, so Nick, how old a fella are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 30.
30-year-old Nick, okay. So that means that you graduated from high school, I'm guessing somewhere around like 2011, somewhere in there?
That's correct.
2011. And you were, the high school that you attended, their athletic nickname was what? Like Eagles, Falcons?
Wow, you're actually correct on the second Falcons.
The Falcons?
Yep.
Okay, and so that means that, did you attend Perry Meridian?
That is correct.
Okay, so this is Nick. Now, what year was, Andre Owens was well before that, correct?
Yes, yeah. He was a few years before me, yeah.
They had a pretty good player that played with him named Noel Rainey that I always thought was kind of underrated, that was a pretty decent player. But Andre Owens was pretty darn elite. All right, so Nick, what line of work are you in now, if you don't mind me asking that?
I'm a plumber.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fun. Now I'll tell you what. That, I would think, is the kind of work. See, you figured it out, Nick, and you tell me if I have told people from day one, we get too lost in this country and whatever else on telling kids that they all got to go be doctors, and I tell them all the time, you know what doctors have in common? None of them know how to fix their sink, and they'll pay darn good money for people that can, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
I might need to talk to you. My
got some plumbing issues?
My garbage disposal's leaking. Yeah, I don't know why.
Really?
But, yeah. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
Stay on hold.
I'll come over there.
Okay. Nick, here we go. You ready for question number 1? Would you like for me, that would be Jake, or would you like for Mark to lead you off?
Let's go with you, Jake.
Okay. Well, hold on. I got to pull up the pop quiz now. Hang on. I lost it. All right, here we go. Now, just out of curiosity, Nick, any reason you'd pick me? If you had to go to the PBR party and you got to pick to have a PBR with or a Diet Coke with either me or Kevin, which one would you pick?
Oh, it'd definitely be you.
Well, my man. All right.
What am I doing? I'm just hanging out in the parking lot? What am I doing?
Well, you're calling him Mick. That's what you're doing.
I'm going off of what Sam said.
You're like Rocky Balboa over there. All right, question number 1. In the NBA this season, Nick, 47 different players have recorded 40-point games. That ties a record that was set in 2021. Whose 40-point game last night tied the record? Was it Miles Turner, Lauri Markkanen, Luka Doncic, or De'Aaron Fox?
Miles Turner.
Okay.
All right, Nick. Nikola Jokic recorded his 22nd triple-double of the season as the Nuggets
won.
won.
Nikola Jokic to you,
Yeah,
right?
That's right. He got his 22nd triple-double of the season as the Nuggets won in Cleveland last night. Was the Nuggets record this season when Jokic has a triple-double? 22-0, 21-1, 20-2, or 19-3?
Go with the first one, 22-0.
That's a good guess.
Okay. All right, here we go. Nick, question number 3. Jason Tatum, 31 last night. Jaylen Brown, 30 last night. It's the 9th time this season that Tatum and Brown have each scored 30 in a game. Only one combo has had more such games in a season. Which two teammates combined for more games where they each scored 30? Was it Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, Shaq and Kobe, or Larry Bird and Kevin McHale?
Let's go with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson.
Okay. On this day in 1980, the United States Olympic hockey team defeated Finland 4-2 to win the gold medal at the Lake Placid Olympics, 2 days after the miracle on ice over the Soviets in the semifinals. Before 1980, when was the last time the U.S. won an Olympic gold medal in ice hockey? A, 1968, B, 1960, C, 1932, D, the U.S. has never won gold before 1980.
It was the same year John Kennedy was elected president.
Oh, man, that's well before me. Go with what was B?
1968.
It was 51 years before you graduated from high school.
1968, 1960, 1932, or the U.S. has never won gold before 1980.
1980, or before 1980, the last one.
1932, or the U.S. had never won.
It was 51 years before you graduated from high school.
So basically, rule out D. So 1968, 1960, or 1932.
1960.
Okay. Last question. The 48th IHSAA Girls Basketball State Finals takes place tomorrow at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Where were the very first Girls Basketball State Finals held in 1976? Was it Market Square Arena, Hinkle Fieldhouse, the Fairgrounds Coliseum, or Nickerson Hall at the University of Indianapolis?
Was that Hinkle Fieldhouse?
Nice.
All right, Nick, let's see how you did.
Nick, what if I told you for question number 3, where you went with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, the other options were Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, or Larry Bird and Kevin McHale? What if I told you that if the record is surpassed, sadly, one of the two people who holds it will not be there to see it?
Kobe, Shaq.
Okay. Here we go. Question number 1. Obviously, yes, Miles Turner was correct.
Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets 22-0 when he gets a triple-double this year.
Question number 4. It took a little work to get there, but in Squaw Valley, Colorado, it was in 1960 when they won, and Hinkle Fieldhouse correct as well. It's a freebie Friday, so it doesn't matter that I had to lead you right up to it, but you did eventually get it. Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant both were correct for question number 3, despite originally the guess of Steph and Klay, which is a pretty darn good guess. Nick, stay on the line. We'll get you hooked up with the oil change, all right? Thanks for listening and for picking me for the PBR party.
And I might be calling you about plumbing issues.
We'll come back, I should say, and put a bow tie on all of it. It's Kevin and Query here on a Friday.
Meet Joe A,
Hi.
Joe B,
Hello.
and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with Autosave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect, support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
I switched to Boost Mobile and got a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone. Want to know the best part?
It was free?
Nope.
The fact that it's on America's largest 5G networks?
Nope. It's the ding.
Oh, yeah. Love the ding.
Right? It's all about the ding. It's the dingarooski, the dingaroner, the ring-a-ding-ding.
Unleash your power to save with Boost. Get a free Samsung Galaxy A23 5G phone when you switch. Boost Mobile. Unleash your power.
And the ding.
Limited time offer. New customers only. Available on select networks. 5G not available everywhere. One device per line. Tax excluded. Additional restrictions apply. See your local Boost Mobile store for details.
Hey, it's JMV for the 14th Central Indiana Joe Childers Run. CarX locations helping you maintain your winter road readiness. How about saving $140 off select Continental tires with the purchase of the CarX Premium Installation Oil Change is starting at just $24.99, and you can save $25 off service over $100. The 14 Central Indiana CarX locations helping you stay winter road ready. To find the location nearest you, CarX.com today.
People who come to Cricket stay with Cricket, just like our customer Christine.
I'm a director and a performer. I got a free phone from Cricket, and I've used it to live stream 73 of my shows on social media.
How do you like it?
It's fabulous!
Switch to Cricket and get a free Samsung Galaxy A14 5G. Smile. You're on Cricket.
Real customer paid for testimonial. Limited time. Must bring your number to Cricket on a $60 a month first month service charge and tax due at sale. Phone streams video and SD. Cricket 5G is not available everywhere. Fees, terms, and other restrictions apply. See cricketwireless.com for details.
Hey there, it's JMV. If you have clogged drains, listen up. There are some clogs a plunger simply cannot fix. That's when you need a professional, and I highly recommend the team at LD Smith Plumbing to handle any water problem in your home, especially clogged drains. They have the know-how and the latest equipment to find the clog and remove it. They're truly water's boss. In the frustration of clogged drains, visit ldsmithplumbing.com today and request an appointment. That's ldsmithplumbing.com today.
At Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, we're not just good at insurance. We're good at Dylan's Jam Session Truck Insurance.
Where the backwoods party and the diddle-de-doo.
We're good at Ben's Hype Machine on Wheels Insurance.
You a boss. You were him.
And we're good at Ethan's SUV with surround sound insurance.
Dad, play Johnny Johnny Apple Pie.
You got it, bud.
Start with Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance and stop knocking on wood.
Soccer Saturday featuring Indy 11. If this is your football, this is your show. Saturday at 9 on The Fan. You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I just presented Scotty with the following trivia question.
What was that?
What is the... Now, this is one of those that I'm going to ask, and then everybody's going to send me a tweet or a text to tell me that. And by the way, my you can always text me. Like this weekend, if you're watching the IU Purdue game, although I'm going to be driving, so be careful. 523-9288 is my cell phone number. That's a 317 area code, obviously. But 523-9288. I like it if every once in a while if people will text me to let me know that they're actually listening, especially after Matt said that Kevin's the glue of the show and he wasn't listening now. That makes me self-conscious. So if you want to drop me a line and let me know, you could also drop me a line if you think that my question is inaccurate. And that is, what is the only state in the country that does not have a public university that uses the name of the state in the name of the school? You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Scotty stumps.
There's a bit of a curve because they as a result of it, a major university started kind of incorporating a tagline with the state in it.
Scotty, you have a guess?
New Jersey is correct.
Ooh.
So Rutgers started using Rutgers State University of New Jersey.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Like the New Jersey Institute of Technology, I believe, is a private school, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the... then again, like if you go in California, you have the university system and the state system. And the university system, they're two different things. They're both public. University system, though, I think is a little more academically elite. So University of Cal Berkeley, University of California, Los Angeles, like those are elite level schools. Then you have the state system, which, Cal State Irvine, Cal State Fullerton, Long Beach State, Chico State. Chico State apparently is like the party school of California. Can you imagine that?
I can't imagine.
Long Beach State's kind of cool. I'm going to be in Long Beach in like a month. You want me to bring you back some stuff from Long Beach
Sure.
State?
Go ahead. Chico State, what is their mascot? What is going on here?
What is their mascot?
Willie the Wildcat.
I'd like to say that Shippensburg University, my alma mater, could give them a run for their money as far as party schools go.
Shippensburg?
Shippensburg.
They said
Shippensburg.
Yes, this is not a Nick Mick situation. It is Shippensburg. I am fully confident in that. Most alcohol-related arrests per capita of any university in the United States.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily a huge thing to be proud of, right?
Well, no, it's not, but I'm just saying, as a party school, we can give, whatever this other university was.
Do you remember this, Scotty? Scotty Johnson's still hanging out in here. When I was a kid, the running narrative for years was always, Playboy doesn't even rank IU anymore in the top party schools because they said they're professionals. Like, IU had this reputation as this massive party school in the 80s, and I feel like that's kind of shifted to Ball State now, right?
Ball State gets it done, is what you're saying?
I mean, I think Ball State is kind of thought of as more the party school in Indiana than IU is now. I could be wrong in that. I mean,
I was just there this past weekend. It looked like a fun time.
Ball State?
Yeah.
What were you doing at Ball State?
Like I said, we went to the Children's Museum in Muncie, and then we drove past Ball State because I'd never seen the campus before. We never went by it. So
really?
Yeah, went by it. We saw this awesome. I mean, I guess I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. It was the first time I saw it. We were going through Ball State's campus, and there was a robot delivering food. It was crossing the street. It's fascinating. I turned around a couple times to see it.
Robot? You mean like it looked
like an RC car, like a giant RC car, but it was crossing
just like
the street.
a wagon, just a motorized wagon, right?
Yeah, but it's bringing food to somebody. That looked fun.
But here's the thing, I've always wondered this as well, like the drone food deliveries that are supposedly coming and stuff like that. What would have stopped you from getting out of your car and just taking the food?
Well, I don't know how that works. If it's like latched until it reaches its final destination or something, or what? I don't know.
Wouldn't it get cold?
No, it looked like it was like there's a lid on top of it.
Oh, really?
So like the robot pops open and it's like, here's your food. I don't know if it talks to him, but then then it left and it turned and it went by their cafeteria and it parked by all the other robots that are just sitting out there.
I went to Ball State for the first time when I was in high school. They had the Indiana Association of Student Broadcasters. And which now, Rich Nye is very involved in that, and a lot of times I will help try to help judge different competitions. But I think when I was in high school, there were 42 schools across the state that had basketball and football play-by-play on the student stations, and we would submit tapes for the competition and it was judged, and then the awards were presented at Ball State, and I did basketball play-by-play with Adam Alexander, who now is with NASCAR on Fox. And I did football play-by-play with Mac Engel, who is the beat writer for the Cowboys he's the columnist for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. Mostly features the Cowboys. Mac is the guy that, when I had my heart attack, that's who I was with, and Mac is the one that drove me to the hospital. And then he stopped at 2 of the stoplights on the way there. And I'm like,
Want to be safe. Rules of the road.
Can we get going here, please? We get to Shadeland, and the hospital's on the left, and the light turned red. And Mac's like, oh, man. And I'm like, yeah, dude, you can run the red, please. So he did. But at any rate, we entered the competition, and I drove up one Saturday with Rob Gould, also a buddy of mine, and a girl named Melindy Fickle, and we drove up to Ball State to the competition. And that was the first time I've been on the Ball State campus, and life is just different now. Like, I'm not even sure that my parents knew that we drove up there one day. You know what I mean? We're like, yeah, we're just going to go to, like, we're going to Muncie for the weekend. Now, like, seemingly when kids go to a college campus, like, they're, I don't know, like, it's everybody kind of handles it like their kid is a 5-star recruit, and everybody wants to know where their kid's going. And I get it. I mean, it's the social media world. But every time I went to Muncie, it rained.
Really?
And I think that I was turned off of going to Ball State for that fact, and that's very unfair, obviously. But I've said on this show, and I'll say it again, if your kid is looking at colleges and visiting schools, you need to make your visits like the window's kind of closing here. But I've always felt like when you make your official college visit, you should do it in like the middle of January when it's gray and 35 and raining, because that's when you need to know that you feel comfortable. If you feel comfortable in that situation, you're going to be able to thrive at that school because you're going to be comfortable all the time. A day like today when it looks like this outside, but if it's 70 and you go to a college campus and everybody's like throwing the Frisbee and riding bikes and you're like, this place is the greatest place ever, and you're going to love it. And then you get there and November hits and you're like, well, wait a minute, that was false advertising. That's what happened to me at campus.
Last weekend when we went was a good time to go then because it was windy and it was a bit dreary. But that campus looked fun.
So you ended up at you went to
University of Indianapolis.
You applied where?
Oh, to University of Indianapolis. I applied elsewhere, Eastern Illinois, Northern Illinois, a couple other places, but went to campus to visit University of Indianapolis, and I liked the size of the campus and whatnot, and said, this looks fun.
So when you were a student at UIndy, how much, I'm curious of this for people that are listening and their kids are thinking about colleges. As a student at UIndy, how attached or detached did you feel to the city of Indianapolis?
Pretty attached. Getting downtown was like 10, 15-minute drive, so it wasn't too bad.
But did you feel like it was a true campus?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you enjoyed it?
Yeah. Enjoyed it a lot. Yeah. It's obviously not the biggest campus. It's, Ball State towers over it in size comparison and stuff, but still fun. I mean, you
so
felt like your
Sam,
own
you
little
applied to what
community.
schools?
None that the listeners here know. Shippensburg. Actually, I did apply to Ball State, but $31,000 a year out of state was too much for me. Shippensburg University, Westchester, and Pitt.
Okay, well, Pitt, yeah. Pitt's like an elite level engineering school, right?
Yeah, but they also have an accreditation for journalism, which is what I ended up going for.
Okay. So we're going. This is the first time that I have covered games at KU. When I worked in St. Louis, I covered a couple of games in Allen Fieldhouse, and I have driven through Lawrence twice since I left, but I did not have a good experience at Kansas. I was homesick. It was awful. All of that's totally on me, but after 30 years, I just decided, you know what? Like, I want to go back and just spend a weekend there and go to a game and just kind of soak it all in. So that, that's what we're doing this weekend. But so it should be fun.
Is that a couple night overnights, or you leaving today?
Tonight, we're leaving today, and we're going to stay. I've got a friend in Kansas City. We're going to dinner in Kansas City tonight in the Plaza, and then Lawrence is it's from Kansas City to Lawrence is probably about like Indy to Bloomington. So then we'll stay tonight in Lawrence, get up tomorrow, do some things. The game's at 3:30 in Lawrence, and then we're heading out. I mean, I don't know if I'll stay the whole game. So we'll leave at 6-ish Lawrence time, which is 7 our time, and that gets us back at like 3 in the morning. It's about a 7.5 hour drive. It's not bad.
Sounds fun.
You go to St. Louis, and then it's another 3.5. The worst part of the drive is from here to St. Louis. It's pretty grueling, right?
Yeah, I've done that drive before. I've never been to Kansas City before. Would love to go, but yeah,
Kansas City is Indianapolis, but too far removed from it. That's the only problem with Kansas. It's a great city. There's an area they have there called the Plaza, which kind of looks like our Meridian Kessler area. It has the second highest number of fountains, I believe, in the world, behind only Venice, Italy. It's a beautiful area. The only problem with if you were to live in Kansas City is you are literally 5 hours from anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, you're kind of in the middle of nowhere. But we're going, barbecue dinner. I mean, all that. That's kind of the stereotype. And then the draft. Actually, my buddy Corey that lives there was like, the draft is going to be in Kansas City next year. And I'm like, oh, man, 800,000 people are going to be there, right?
The old attendance record that you're going to be calling fraudulent.
Come on. What do you got going on this weekend?
So last weekend, like I said, was a lot of day trips. We did Louisville on Friday. We did Muncie on Saturday. Sunday was kind of a hangout. This weekend, we're going up to my parents' house, so we're going to see them
that's
a
right.
little bit. Yep.
Right,
do that, see some Chicago museums probably and all that stuff. But then next week, Kevin will be back, and then we'll be at the Combine for most of the week.
Now, are you back here when we're at the Combine, or are you going to be on site with us?
I will be here to do the show, but then I'll be heading over there after the show to mix and mingle and see what happens.
Tomorrow night, Indiana-Purdue. I had said the first go-round when they were in Bloomington that I thought Indiana would win by 5 in Bloomington and Purdue would win by 15 in West Lafayette. I know Indiana fans are hoping that I am wrong in that regard. One thing we know going into the game, even though it was pretty widely speculated going into the week, but the week began with Trayce Jackson-Davis telling just a couple of reporters that this was it for him. And then yesterday he made it official that Trayce Jackson-Davis will not return to Bloomington next year, that this is going to be the end of the run for him. Understandably so. Fabulous career. And 4-year eligibility. I mean, he had the extra year because of the COVID year. He could have come back. He would have actually become the Big Ten's all-time leading scorer had he come back. But I kind of agree with what Don Fischer was saying. I mean, in terms of what he wants to do at the next level, I think Trayce Jackson-Davis is – I'm not going to say that he's going to be a Draymond Green type player, but I could see him being a guy that someone takes a flyer in the second round and then realizes, I think his rebounding alone could keep him in the league for a long time. Now, what does he do defensively? Can he get out on the wing and guard people? That's going to be, can Trayce Jackson-Davis step out on the wing and guard Brandon Miller? And I don't mean the Butler Brandon Miller. I mean the Alabama Brandon Miller. That type of a player. That's going to be the challenge for him at the next level. And then can he himself be that guy on the wing? That's going to be the question.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, it's very curious what his ceiling is going to be in the NBA, and then also how they do on Saturday. Who you have winning? Are you still standing by your 15-point beatdown?
I said it back then, so
got to stick by it.
I will let everybody know what a genius I am if, in fact, Purdue wins by 15.
I'm going to take Purdue in this one as well. I just think home cooking, and like we talked with Don Fischer, IU has struggled on the road mightily. 11-point 11 points less per game when they're on the road. So give me Purdue. I don't think they're going to be winning at the clip that you said, but that's it.
All right, well, travel safe this weekend. All right, Mark?
Thank you, too.
Sam, thanks. We'll talk to everybody Monday at 7. Have a good one, everybody.
The Ride with JMV.
The new head coach of the Colts, Shane Steichen, joins us. I'm assuming nobody